Sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Vamos a bailar. Sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Ay, la sala está llena de gente, cuerpos sudorosos acá. La pista está hirviendo, pero te destaca, mamá, brillando como una estrella. Mira qué bonita está. Escucha el coro, mamita, que te voy a dar. Sandunguera, sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Vamos a bailar. Sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Ay, siempre un paso para adelante, después un paso para atrás. Ahora te suelto, mamita, muévete con el ritmo que va. Sandunguera, te estoy llamando, mira qué bonita estás. Escucha el coro de nuevo que te voy a dar. Sandunguera, sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Vamos a bailar, vamos a gozar. Sandunguera, guarachera, vamos a bailar. Ay, sandunguera linda, vamos a bailar tú y yo. Ay, qué sabroso. Vamos a bailar, mi nena linda, vamos a gozar. Vamos a gozar. Muévete, sandunguera, vamos a guarachar. Ay, repítelo. Vamos a bailar, mi nena linda,
Hey.
vamos a gozar. Ay,
Good morning,
vamos a
early birds.
guarachar, sandunguera, vamos a guarachar. Oye, mira, mami, vamos a gozar, vamos a bailar.
What up, what up, what up, what up?
Tú y yo en la pista, mami, vamos a guarachar. Ahora estamos
Need all my early birds to
en la
rise
pista,
up.
vamos a gozar. Ay, esa cosa que me hiciste, mami, me gustó. Vamos a guarachar. Muévete bien, chiquita. Vamos a gozar. Mueve tu cuerpo y tu cinturita. Vamos a guarachar. Oye, el ritmo te está llamando ahora. Vamos a gozar. Este ritmo es para guarachar, señora. Vamos a guarachar. Ay, camina con el mambo.
We haven't gotten the time right. It will happen though, Taco, don't worry. It will occur.
Vamos a guarachar, vamos a guarachar, vamos a bailar, vamos a gozar. Ay, qué rico está, qué rico. Vamos a guarachar.
This isn't going to be, I expect, so heavy a legal stream. It's going to be us just chilling, reacting to some shit, waiting to see if anyone wants to disagree with me. So we'll save the legal stuff for when Nate's available. Non-vegetables, yeah.
Ay, señorita, porque me deja. Bueno, mira, señora, ay, señorita, nadie sabía lo que iba a pasar. Solamente fuiste y me dejaste solito en la eternidad. Señora, ay, señorita, yo sé que ahora estás lejos de mí. Y siempre estoy pensando lo que estás haciendo. Y si te sientes más feliz, y si te sientes más feliz, oye. Y espero yo que no te sientas sola y que tu vida está llena de felicidad. Porque
Oh, wait, one
deseo
second,
que nadie tenga que sentirse ahora
Do you have a bass,
mismo
Bernie Sanders?
como yo atrapado en la oscuridad, solito en la eternidad,
Where is it?
solito en la eternidad, oye.
Bass Bernie? Wait 1 second.
Elections.
In terms of looking at that, should Haley Stevens win, would you campaign for her because you want Democrats
I don't know that
to?
she'd want me. I support her. I want Democrats to control the Senate. I think both Haley and Abdul have made it clear that if the other candidate wins, they will be supportive. So will I.
Based. Holy crap. You mean Bernie Sanders said this? That's so surprising because he did support Hillary in 2016, right, guys? And Biden and Kamala. I think it's pretty consistent, actually. It was just audio, yeah. Any other base people.
Saxofón con Cristian. Toca.
Josh Hawley.
Hold him in contempt of Congress, and I would just say this: as a lawyer,
hold him in
former
contempt.
Attorney General of my state, when you get immunity, and he's got it, he's got immunity from Joe Biden.
See, it's so funny that Fauci is said to have immunity and therefore be like committing contempt of Congress or whatever by pleading the fifth. They all believe that Fauci's pardon is null and void because it was done with an auto pen, because it was signed with an auto pen. You know, make that make sense. All of like Trump's pardons with auto pen, those are all valid, of course. But they all have as their theory that none of that shit works as to Fauci. And so you know that they're full of shit. Josh Hawley is one of the most contemptible pieces of shit in Congress. What a humongous pile of human feces. Anyway.
Y aunque no te sientas sola y que tu vida está llena de felicidad, porque deseo que nadie tenga que sentirse ahora mismo como yo atrapado en la oscuridad y solito en la eternidad. Ay señora, vuélvete, ay señora, ya se fue.
Yo, what up, everybody? Good morning. You all can hear me. You can see me. How's everybody doing? It was a pardon lasting for a year from when the pardon was issued. I don't know what you mean. It was lasting for a year. Get the beard. Yeah, bro. We got that shit lined up. We got it lined up. How you guys doing? Having a nice little morning session? Can we trust all the DSA candidates to moderate like AOC did? No, I don't think. Don't trust politicians to do jack shit. It's not really about trust. It's about. So I just find that there's so much confusion in this discourse, bro. And I'm doing my best just to like make sure people understand what the hell we're talking about. So when you ask something like, can we trust them? It's to some degree and not fully, right? We have a model of candidates like AOC, like Mamdani, who have not turned into Stalinists and have been willing to work from within the party. And even when they are cringe, such as AOC not voting in favor of the bipartisan infrastructure law, it rarely, if ever, results in scuttling of entire pieces of legislation. So there just exist models for this. I'm not saying like, don't be wary. I'm not saying don't keep an eye on them. I'm not saying don't apply pressure to them. So none of that is on the table. It's just like, should we be concerned about a set of issues? Like, should we be concerned with an imminent turn towards illiberalism in the Democratic Party? It's my position that no, there's no basis to believe that the party itself is about to turn illiberal. Should we be concerned for other things, right? The media apparatus. Okay, yeah. Not having a media structure laid out to support more moderate or centrist. By the way, we are probably going to listen to a little bit of the Ezra Klein, Ben Wickler interview today at some point. And I pre-watched like maybe 5 or 6 minutes of it just randomly. And he uses the term centrist Democrat, once again, fully vindicating my usage or my point on the term centrist before, in case you wanted additional justification. It's not like Ben Wickler is like inaccurately calling people centrist. But I don't want to linger too much on that. But yeah, you can like raise anything you want about these DSA candidates. I don't support all of them in primaries. I support some of them in primaries. I know that Brad Lander is not a DSA member, but he is more in that vein. He's more in that lane. He used to be a DSA member. I supported him over Dan Goldman. El Sayed is not a member of the DSA. He does not identify as a socialist. That's what he said on the debate. I'll take him at his word there. And I endorsed him over Haley Stevens. I won't always endorse the DSA-aligned candidate over the non-DSA aligned candidate. And I'm sure that the leaders of the DSA have some cringe positions, including sometimes the candidates that I support. So, like, it's just a question about what we're talking about. What is the prescription? What are you asking me to assess? And in the discussions that we've had in the last few days, it's like embarrassing, the shocking level of vagueness and lack of clarity. And you might get triggered that I say that. It's just true. Try to distill anything. Avi tried to do his best in the reply, in like a tweet that I just posted some hours ago, where I'm like, these are weasel phrases. Keep an eye out for them. And these are phrases like kick them out of the coalition, don't let them into the tent, let people know that they're not a real Democrat. These are the kind of phrases that I think are substanceless. Avi chimed in, is like, well, if the phrase means these kinds of things, I understand that. And I agree on Avi's view. Like, Avi's view is, hey, by kicking them out of the party, I mean, like, don't support them in elections, right? But when I ask that of the people who I'm speaking with, they're like, no, we don't mean that. We don't mean, that's a straw man. We never said don't support them in elections. It's okay, that's not what you mean, right? Another thing is like, well, criticize them. Well, Josiah and I criticize the left. That's just like not refuted. No one says that we don't criticize the left. So what is the prescription? What is it? And you just, there's nothing. There is nothing. It really is insanely embarrassing. Imagine being like, just being asked repeatedly to lay out what's going on. Like, really try to track that conversation or the Twitter spaces. It's just truly embarrassing. I saw some polling that has Stevens a little cooked in the primary. I've also seen some polling that has El Sayed cooked in the general, but people have like raised doubts about both sets of polls. They're just individual polls. You go by the mean. The mean, as far as I'm concerned, is this is looking like a close election. We'll see, though. I haven't taken. Well, I'll look at I've seen polling for Trump recently, and I've seen some of those polls that are being referenced, but not all. Not all. Good morning, milestone fanatic. But Vance or AOC, who knows who should have been better? Have you heard of the Green New Deal? That was so bizarre too. It's like the big issue with a lot of these lefty influencers is their unwillingness to support like the Democratic candidate coming out of the democratic process. Right? That's like the big faux pas, among others. And when you say that, they're like, no, it's more than that. It's constantly saying they're genocide lovers and shit like that. Like, okay, fit in whatever you want to say in terms of like vociferous criticism. It's obviously never one-to-one, right? Because calling someone a genocide supporter is the same exact thing as calling them a worthless tanky who's going to institute authoritarian Green New Deal policies and take away private ownership of the means. Like, it's never like there's never a comparison, right? It's never fair, right? You bring up AOC versus Vance. That's not representative, of course, because AOC, don't you know AOC? She's essentially a centrist. But even though she's essentially a centrist and not representative of the DSA, I still might vote for JD Vance. And this is why it's so beautiful of an example. That's precisely the question that got Hassan excoriated, and rightfully so. Only with Gavin Newsom. The symmetry of it is something to behold. Will you post the Twitter Spaces chats? The only reason I did the Twitter Spaces is because I think I figured out the internet. My internet was like fucked. But I didn't prefer to do the Twitter Spaces. It was sort of like and I'm going to be honest. I'm sure that there's some part of my audience that's like bored of these conversations because it's the exact same conversation that we've had like for months and months and months. My position has not changed. Josiah's position has not changed. Everything has remained consistent. So like, I don't know. Yes, the very thing that we are excoriating Hassan Piker for, excoriating people. And yes, we do. And yes, I will. And yes, I have. And yes, I will continue to criticize people who don't vote for the Democratic nominee that comes out of the Democratic process. And by the way, Wickler talks about this a little bit. I know because like I mentioned, previewed like 5 or so minutes of it, in respecting the process of our primaries. The fighting is supposed to happen in the primaries, and we're supposed to coalesce behind the candidate that emerges out of that process. Now, if you want to say that some candidates are too extreme for you to vote for, then say that. But no one's saying that, like, you aren't allowed to criticize them. I have never said that. I have never ever once said, don't criticize them. In fact, I say, criticize people who deserve criticism. It's very simple, very easy thing to follow. No one is saying you can never talk bad. And so you have this like basically posturing in my mind that has looking very Japanese. Thank you so much, Tali. Tali, can we chat at some point? I'd love to talk with you. And so it's like this weird perversion, or I don't know if perversion is the right word. It's this weird reflection, this weird like shadow version of the same questions being asked to the left, right? The lefties who are non-committal when it comes to Newsom, but now we're non-committal when it comes to AOC, who both is and is not representative of the Democratic Socialists. Make that make sense? And you might say, well, that's what they deserve. That's what they deserve because they did it to our candidate. Now we do it to their candidate. But I'm like, AOC would be my candidate too. AOC, in my opinion, is a good person. AOC, in my opinion, is not an anti-Semite. AOC, in my opinion, is not going to end private property. AOC, in my opinion, is not going to. Of course, my Twitter name's on work. We can schedule on this. Yeah. Wait. Can we? Can I at you? And listen, I'm cordial. This is what I also don't understand. Can you at me? I'm looking at my DMs right now. I know I'm very bad at responding to DMs, and I'm sorry for everyone who I've wronged with this over the course of many years. But I'm looking at them right now. So if you message me, I'll see it, Tali, if you don't mind. If you want to. It's up to you, of course. People will say, well, like, we just want you to be adversarial. I'm like adversarial when I feel like the moment calls for it. And sometimes the moment calls for it, and sometimes it does not. When I'm being invited on Breaking Points, or let's say on Kyle's show, specifically for legal commentary, that's what I'm going to provide. And I'm not going to force antagonism where it doesn't make sense, right? I'm much more likely, honestly, extemporaneously, to hear some like shit that Emily says or that Sagar says and take issue with it in the morning. You get me? In the morning. God. In the moment. Oh, there I see Tali. Did you change your profile picture, Tali? Hello. Let me know when you want to chat. I'm free for the next hours, but also this week. So why am I reading it out loud? My DM to you. Okay. Like, I'm not going to just force disagreement if I'm being called on specifically to give legal commentary, but I have no problem asking for a debate or discussion with people with whom I disagree, and I do it all the time, and I have no problem inviting lefties on, and I do it all the time. When I debate lefties furiously, somehow it doesn't count, right? Because Prime Kai, that doesn't count. Vadim doesn't count. Ogre Boy doesn't count. So it's just like, to me, just a moving target. There's no specific concrete prescriptions. I saw a tweet even from Jebtan, who obviously very much disagrees with me, but he says, as someone who's ultimately opposed to basically any push towards socialism, I agree that online libs are being wildly unfair and dishonest in this, quote, anti-progressive arc. That here is referring to the people opposite me, the WIC class. Like, I don't want to hear about how MAGA is the ultimate threat to democracy, but also JD Vance versus AOC is 55-45, right? It belies, I think, a fundamental failure to interact with the badness and evilness that is Trump. It betrays that, in my view. Don't campaign. Oh, wait, we just have Mootin at me. I'll just add him back. Want to chat right now? Mr. Mootin just added me, and I just responded. Want to chat right now? But yeah, that's what I'm getting at, the weight class. Yeah. What else did I want to say? What else did I want to say? Like, if it bothers you that the same standard that we're applying to gender lefties is being applied to you, I don't know what to tell you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. But yeah, any questions on that? I don't know if Mooten will respond favorably to my response. I replied very quickly because I happened to be looking at Twitter at the time that he did that, so he might be a little, I don't know if spooked is the right word, but maybe he doesn't know that it's I thought I fixed that. How about now? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Like, why are we adding all these additional factors into the hypothetical that weren't priced into what I asked, right? Like, JD Vance versus AOC. And it's like, wait, no. That hypothetical was asking AOC in the hypothetical in which there's a trillion tankies who have just taken. No, it fucking wasn't. Right? That wasn't entailed in the conditions, the parameters of the hypothetical. That wasn't entailed at all. That wasn't part of it. That wasn't in the question. And so that's just a dodge. That's just an attempt to escape. Imagine if I tried that with the hypothetical that was asked to me. Oh, and like implausibly said, no. When you asked me, would I critique Crystal Ball if you did this, I assumed critiquing Crystal Ball in a situation in which Crystal Ball had acquired the Ark of the Covenant and she was just about to take over the Empire State Building and the Marshmallow Man was coming up. Like, what the fuck? This like post hoc adding of like crazy scenarios never once uttered in the asking of a simple question, JD or AOC. Imagine if a song came back, oh no, when I was talking about Newsom versus JD Vance, I was imagining a scenario in which JD Vance had like said that he's going to support Medicare for all and that JD Vance actually revealed that Peter Thiel was mind controlling him and he got rid of the mind control. Like, it's so crazy. Like, what are we talking about? It's complete copium, yeah. It's not close at all. And I don't know what else. Isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious that the hypothetical didn't call for that scenario? And we could just make it very simple. Okay, assume not that scenario. Assume that it's 2028 and the members in Congress are the ones who are likely to be elected this cycle in anticipation of the midterms. Then what? Without the tanky takeover in the next election cycle, then what is your answer? And here's the clincher, right? The clincher is they know they'd vote for AOC. The obvious answer is vote for AOC. But when you say vote for AOC, there's got to be some special pleading somewhere, because then where's the force? Where's the normative weight, normative force of this loaded language of excise them from the party? Then you have to be like, AOC different, AOC different, AOC different, AOC different. She's so different. Okay, to whom does it apply? That's why I start going through politicians. Does it apply to Mamdani? Does it apply? Like, who are you willing? Where in which situation will cause you not to vote for the Democratic candidate who is put through the process? No response yet from Mouton. Let's see if there's some responses here. Even if you thought AOC was a shadow commie mommy or something, I would much rather take my chances. Of course. And there are reasons for this as well, because we have some institutional factors that I think better guard against left-wing populist autocrats than right-wing even if we assumed she was that, which of course I don't believe. And these institutional factors in my mind are the legal system and the courts, the military, and federalism, the states. I think those are more apt to guard against left-wing versus right-wing authoritarians. My issue with the Dems versus DSA discussion is that a lot of people on the lib side just want to talk creator conflicts rather than do what Dems need to. Yeah, and then like the goalposts are always shifting because we start talking. Okay, no, this is just about creators. Tomfoolery will often say this, like, when we're talking about the coalition of the tent, we're just talking about creators, don't you know? It's just creators. It's not politicians. I'm like, what? And then it's like, wait. So we're only talking about influencers, and it's like the scope of the assessment is never really talked about. Like, I thought we were worried about the DSA takeover of our Democratic Party, of the seats of the government. But when we're not talking about that, it's like, well, then what's the threat? How are you ever going to stop tanky, lefty, populisty influencer class? It's like you're never gonna do that. It's fighting against the tide. There's a lane, right? It's almost like there's an evolutionary niche. That niche exists. Now you can limit its effects in certain areas, right? Certainly in like electing people to Congress. But wholesale being like, okay, it just can't be the way. It can't be that these people are allowed to just constantly lie and shit on our What does that mean? Well, it can't be the way. You mean we want to stop their freedom of speech? And it's like, no, what do you mean? Don't you think that there's something else besides stopping freedom of speech and kill them? No, but like, okay, then criticize them. Yeah. Then we're trying to really distill the disagreement. It's actually, I think, quite unclear what the disagreement is. So I keep like the theme, and it frustrates people, but it's just like an obvious question asked, like, so what, right? So what? All right, granted. Then what? What are you saying? What's the normative weight? Tolly says Tom's point is coherent in the frame of your sphere of influence. No. So the point Tom is saying that this term, the coalition and the tent, is only used by people to reference influencers. But of course that's not true, right? So Tom is making a statement about the usage of terms. Tom says, when we use this term, we're only talking about influencers. But of course that's not true. It's just an account of how the terms are being used, right? Just look at the discourse. It's about politicians as well. And so Tom must be wrong. Of course he's wrong. He might be using that term independently to mean only exclusive to influencers. But when he says that's how the term is being used, of course he's wrong. In fact, just the mere fact that people are citing examples of politicians being elected as sort of evidence of the problem shows you that it's not just about influencers. So yeah, he's just like very, 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 very 100 trillion quadruple% wrong on the usage of the term. And that's the point in which I understand. Now he can say for himself, hey, what I mean by kick them out of the coalition is just about castigating. It's just about castigating these creators. That's all that's meant, But then he can only speak for himself. And then I'm like, fine, then we agree, right? Then we just fucking agree. I don't understand like how that isn't the most odd. The point is, right? The more the prescription becomes something like criticize heavily, the more trivial it is. But the term excise, kick them out of the party, draw a red line, those terms have this high normative weight. They have this like punch to them, which it's the big dog, little dog. The big dog is kick out means like expel them formally, right? These decentralized parties where top-down control was relinquished, really, especially in terms of the informal usage and registration into the party. But even when it comes to picking nominees, top-down control was relinquished some time ago. And the last vestiges are being ripped off, superdelegates, etc. So I just really have to double down on that. Jen Wing says, I don't think the getting popular enough to take seats is the biggest issue. The biggest issue is non-politically savvy normie types run to the right for fear all the... Okay, that just is an empirical claim. That needs... And I think Wickler also talks about this when we end up watching the Ezra Klein interview. That's just an empirical claim. Which, where's the data, right? Like, if someone says this to you, you might have a strong intuition that that's the case. But we're really just talking about data. And it's not enough to show, well, the people want the party to be less extreme or something, or they want the party to be more moderate. That's compatible with them not scuttling elections in, competitive districts. That's compatible. We want to see is some more direct evidence that the middle is being pushed away, because the people, and I remember this point from Wickler. Now I really want to watch it. Wickler makes a point. He goes, the people who are most apt to be convinced don't know who the hell is winning the nomination contest in New York, right? The people who are convincible don't know about shit that doesn't pertain to them. They're not tuned into politics anyway. The people who are spending a lot of time doing the hand-wringing, they're already highly motivated one way or the other. And so, yes, we want data. We want some data. We want some indication and this is the point about this is like the Hutch point, right? Where it's not about the imminent illiberal takeover of the Democratic Party. It's not about that. It's about the sort of knock-on effects in terms of electability for other people and the anchor that it'll present. But then just like an empirical claim. Where's the data from an election that hasn't happened yet? Okay, then where is the evidence? What is the evidence? What's the evidence that still happened? Like, we've had radical, at the time, relatively speaking, candidates before. Where is the evidence that they specifically, if anything, right? There's some evidence that Bernie was doing better in places like Michigan and the Rust Belt or at least overperforming there than Hillary Clinton. That's not to say that I know that Sanders would have been more competitive than Hillary Clinton in the general election, but it's not at all clear to me that the type of voter we need to win will be put off either by the policies themselves, or to the extent that they actually are put off by the policies, that the candidates who run there, irrespective of where those DSA members are running, will even know about those policies, such that it'll affect the view of the candidate that's actually before them. Here I'm thinking about people like in Georgia. You see Ossoff is... some of these polls are insane. Maybe they're true, maybe they're not. I posted them. Let me see. What's up, guys? We have Ossoff by Fox. This is Fox News polls. Ossoff 13 points ahead of Collins. I understand the national environment of the Democrats is good, right? But is he being anchored by the DSA? You have Roy Cooper up 9 in North Carolina. You have Sherrod Brown up 8 in Ohio. You have Turek up 4 in Iowa. Rural Iowa. And even after Plattner dropped out, this is the Fox News poll. They haven't polled his Troy Jackson, right? They haven't polled him. But Plattner is only down 3 post-rape allegation against Collins on the Fox News polls. So it is an empirical descriptive claim which requires evidence. That's not me sweeping for their effect. It's just being you have a claim, you have a burden, and I've not been moved to think that these wins in highly, highly big blue districts is going to cause some knock-on effect in the middle of the country. And when it does, when it starts doing that, yeah, obviously, or if there's evidence of it, I'm going to perhaps change my attitude towards the nature of this risk. But there's just not good evidence. Do you have evidence that if Biden stayed, Dems would have... Yes, of course. There was polling that indicated as such. There was polling that indicated that Biden was performing worse than Kamala. Yes, there is data. Of course there's data. Where's the respective data for your point? Where's the data that if DSA members in New York win, that it's going to affect whatever... What is it even that you're trying to prove? First, get a grasp of that. And so before we're even getting to any kind of proof point, even just getting a sense of the claim. Getting a sense of the claim is needed. But I do think that Dems would have lost worse. Yes, I do. And that's based on polling data that exists. I'm not unmovable. Show me polls. You think lefties learn anything from failed attempt? I don't know. I'm sure some of maybe the Congress people, perhaps, if evidence of, who was in there? AOC was in there. I think Rashida Tlaib was in there. And I think I confused Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar yesterday or the other day when I was thinking about the Ukraine votes. Just heads up, I made a mistake there. But they were there, and they seem to have been more amenable to working with the Democratic Party. I think that's just been shown. So please just get the claim straight first. Get the specific allegation that you're making clear in the minds of me. I need to understand it first, and then we can get into like general favor. No. So if you polled the states where Biden was running against Trump, he was down massive margins, which were much different than, and especially also by internal polling that was later on referenced by the autopsy people, not the DSA autopsy people, but by the campaign. Way worse than the margins that Kamala brought, both immediately after her entering the race and then in the actual election that occurred. And the polling related to Biden's age being a massive factor. And I think they even continued doing polling. Can we schedule something for tomorrow? Okay. I think I can. Wait. I think I can. Today is Friday for me, right? So today's Friday for me. Today's Friday for me. I have a big thing tonight, and that'll be morning. It would have to be evening America time. Evening America time, right? Maybe evening America time? Well, maybe Friday. I'll just say Friday evening. Wait, is it Friday? What time is it for you guys? Is it Thursday? And then tomorrow would be Friday? And then Friday evening for me would be Saturday morning. Okay, then that makes... It's Thursday, Mom. Okay. Cool. Where was I? Where the fuck was I? Thursday. Okay. Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu. I can't do the second part. I always forget it. It's something like that. I'm working on it, guys. I don't have my numbers. I don't even know any of the numbers. I just put up fingers. Where was I? Yeah, I was monologuing. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's basically my view. If you have a kind of like they will bring down our electability argument, then you should present that evidence. You're about to bring me on. You're on Discord. Oh, you're on Discord? Okay. If people want to call in, that's workable. Oh, wait. Is Nate available? Oh, hey. Hey. I didn't get a message, but you're awake. Let's see. We'll drag in someone right now. Hey, what up, David?
Yo, we were talking yesterday on or whenever this Twitter Spaces was. I was Lance.
Yo, what up? You were Lance, huh?
Yeah, I'm Lance. I'm always trying to, fight the good fight with you. But
Appreciate that.
I think the thing that these people keep coming at this from is it is a vibe, and like I kind of feel it a little bit of like there's I went to a local Democrat thing where our representative showed up at like this coffee place and everybody came, and like 90% of the people there were old people, normal Democrats, and then every young person had these like wacky questions for this like deep blue Democrat congressperson who like doesn't know what they're talking about. This old person. They're asking about like like kind of far left stuff. That they had something about weapons to Ukraine and Israel and whatever. And there's this general vibe I think people are getting of like this undercurrent of lefty populist whatever, and they're just spooked. They don't like it.
Yeah,
And
how do I work
it's a
with that
vibe.
though? I mean, like, yeah, they're spooked
I don't know.
about it. Like, yeah, old people ask dumb questions too. Have you like listened to C-SPAN before? It's kind of crazy.
Dude, it was it was really funny because all the old people wanted to talk about was like really hyper specific local issues that the congressperson also didn't have anything to do with. Like it was really funny. But I think the people who are like upset at you, and like I was listening to I was there when Stephen and Hutch were it seems like they're upset at punditry about media and like losing power and like whatever, and they're just projecting it onto you, and I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. But I think it's just like they want to have what the Republicans have, which is this crazy control over the party.
Yeah, then I'm gonna sound like a
we
tanky
can't
right
do
now,
that.
but I'm like, then be mad at like all the corporate news organizations that have been total cucks. And here I'm talking about like CNN.
Yeah.
Here I'm talking about like, some of these mergers and shit. Like, yeah, no, I understand the consternation, the frustration, the annoyance at the media situation, but I'm just not understanding how that's linked to anything we're talking about. Like, Midas Touch has grown massively. It's like a massive platform available. There are plenty of lib creators, super based lib creators that are now available. They're growing. They're not reaching the kind of media dominance that existed for MAGA. That's just a work in progress. But I just don't understand. Yes, some left-wing people who are further left perhaps than you'd like have media presence, but okay, that makes you mad. What do I do about it? I criticize them when they say wrong shit. What else can you do?
They want you to be screaming about it. They want you to be crying that someone said Medicare for all or something. I don't know if anything would make them happy.
But the thing is, here two things. That one is sometimes they have good points. That's number one. That's unfortunate that some people that triggers them. But sometimes Kyle Kalinske says something that's insanely based and correct, believe it or not. And then two, the stuff they say that's wrong doesn't offend me as much. And when it does, I speak up when I see it. And I have to also say, some of this is your curated feed. Okay? So I don't see everything that you see. And a lot of these people, I feel like they keep engaging with this stuff on their Twitter algo. They're going to get shown it more. And so there are a bunch of different reasons that I might get louder at MAGA than I do against the far left. One is I think MAGA is a greater threat. Two is I get more offended generally by things that MAGA says than the far left. Three is my algo isn't picking out for me to be triggered constantly by lefties, maybe the same as much as other people. But yeah, that's my response there. If you're like, I want you to cry more, cry baby, like, tell me what to cry more about. And I'll tell you why I think that my response was appropriate. Or maybe it was inappropriate. Maybe it was too weak. But this vibes thing, I can't work with it unless it's more concrete and actualized.
That's what I was saying on the Twitter space, that you should, like, it would be funny if it was just like you and Hutch just sitting there watching whatever the hell Hutch is watching and seeing what the vibe is. In your thread with Avi.
Yeah, go with the Avi thread.
In the thread with Avi, which I don't know if you mentioned on in the stream yet, but he has this connection with the right wing and the Nazis, and like if that a neo-Nazi candidate and whatever, and I think that is just literally what they want you to do, is to like insert X ideological thing that's on the left as the jump scare boogeyman that the Nazis are for the right. And to treat it identically.
I don't think that's true. I mean, maybe that's what they think that they are saying, but like, I'll ask them the question: do you want me to treat my appearance on Breaking Point like I'm going on some Nazi some Nazi news channel, and no one says yes. No one says don't go on there and do polite legal commentary. Okay, so that's number one. On the kind of broader question regarding like the specific moments, like I'm not going to be as triggered, even assuming I have the same position as you guys regarding the Alyssa Slotkin interview by Breaking Points, than I am Jared Polis commuting the sentence of Tina Peters. Why should I be? I'm more offended by Tina Peters situations and failures at that level than I am by the Breaking Point Slotkin interview. So give me some reasons why I should be equally mad about those things, or give me some examples where I should be, where you see my level of disgust, anger, reaction, which is really, really strong, and like the comparable event in lefty terms that I should equally be mad about, and give me some compelling reasons to sort of react as strongly to that as I am to the stuff that actually offends me more, right? So that's what I want some examples of.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it seems to me that it's just a matter of like a vibe thing of them having this icky feeling, and I know I share some of it. I think that there is a genuine concern about having a political movement that I would consider just very hostile to like the Democratic Party, like Kyle Kalinske and
Kalinske.
Like Kyle Kalinske, he's extremely anti-establishment. He's changing in the sense of like he's seeing that the lesser of two evils thing, the pragmatism thing is better. But
these types always existed.
When did he start his YouTube channel? Like 2006.
Yeah. These people. The thing is, what I take issue with is like this kind of dynamic is time immemorial for the Democratic Party. I mean, just go back to the Vietnam War conflict. Go back to the conflict with the war on terror. These kinds of dynamics, like the left's criticizing of Democratic candidates, that shit has always existed. So sorry, I would agree that there's some insurgency and effectiveness in the sort of politician space, perhaps. But in terms of like the online commentary, this is just like, it's a niche that exists and it's always gonna exist. And getting all hot and bothered about it, like, to what end? To what end? Yes, when necessary, when called upon, yes, I will definitely do it. But more than the time I'm spending on MAGA, or more than the time I spend on what politicians do, I don't know. I kind of like price in that people like Breaking Points or left-wingers or Michael Tracy or I'm thinking of other examples, Jimmy Dore, these people are going to exist. I also don't spend most of my, Young Turks, they've existed for a while now. Yes, and they say some bad things.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing it since they started.
Yeah, but like, why should I? What is the good reason to spend not to withhold criticism? Just to be clear, because everyone agrees that I do criticize these people when I see the things that I don't agree with. I don't withhold back so the question is just on the vibes. Why should I be more like visibly animated and upset at those instances? I'm just like not seeing the compelling reasons why that's a good use of my additional energy beyond the criticism that I expend in whatever I default think is necessary.
Yeah, my best guess is that there's kind of this like tide shift in like the liberal, at least in I'll just say like the Stephen Hutch liberal world universe, where like the WIC class, where they're seeing that the dynamic is like they don't like the dynamic anymore. It's like, okay, we have these people who are like insurgent anti-establishment people who are like can in theory, whether or not there's any evidence that they're harming the party is hard to say, but being attacked from both sides to them is just, they've changed their mind on it. They're just like, we're sick of this, and they want you to be sick of it in the way that they're sick of it. And I think it's a silly thing to argue to you about.
Okay, I mean, like,
that's my guess.
There are sometimes that lefties really, really annoy me and bother me, and I show that, and I've yelled at them and screamed at them. I have done that. Now, again, like I said, I probably get fed less of this stuff than the WIC class does, and my reaction is probably more muted than the things that I'm more offended by. Like, I'm just going to be honest, I'm less offended with a lefty who, I don't know, the squirrel, remember that the squirrel person?
Oh yeah, Zay Squirrel, yeah.
Yeah, I'm less offended by her or Haas or Hassan saying that like Kamala is a genocide supporter than I am Jared Polis doing the commutation of Tina Peters.
And I think
I'll just be like, that's
no one
dumb,
can
that's stupid. Like these
say
people
there's
suck.
a correct answer there. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and when they get crazy, when they do something like, yeah, I'll go at them. And the number one thing that like just I'm also limited by my personality and like who I am as a person. Something that really triggers me is
Right.
if they start like adding me and saying that I'm dodging debates, or like those are just things that I can't control that like start to I'll get more animated just by their insistence or by these just like personality quirks in me. Like, and it just is the case that perhaps some of the reaction to my positions, it seems more animated against like the liberal critique of mine, just because there are, just look at my replies. There's so many more triggered
Yeah.
libs, again, who I identify with, than there are triggered lefties. And so that's just in the nature of my personality. If they start saying things like, you're tanky, you actually support communism, you actually, you're bad
You're
faith,
sweeping.
you're just doing this for money, which I get a lot. It's like, and please, like, this is like the craziest thing in the world. If I just wanted more money, I would pick a lane. Like, for God's sakes, I would just pick a lane and it'd just be the easiest thing in the world. I assume people come for me for like authentic, genuine positions that, I don't start the day thinking about how do I appeal to this crowd or the other. That's what they seem to think that I do. Maybe it's a little bit of projection, but I don't do that. Like it's inexplicable given my position on Merrick Garland, given my position on Hunter Biden pardon, given my position on campaign finance, given my position on military spending, given my position on Ukraine, given like none of this is explained by me trying to triangulate a perfect position to maximize funds. And yet, who are the people who are accusing me of that? So, how I react to things is in virtue of what offends me, but sometimes what offends me is like more the personal attacks and the character attacks than it is the kind of positions where I'm just like, okay, Hassan said something fucking stupid, and I roll my eyes. But when they're like, peace, like, I'm sorry, I'm just a human being. You understand?
Yeah, I don't be an armchair psychologist, but in these wit class lib circles, and at least the commenters, the people who really get savage. I think
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah, the hate threads are
I don't know,
crazy.
they
They're
they
like,
see,
he's
they
a
see
fucking, he's betrayed us. He's like stabbed, like it's insane. But like, whatever. I mean, at a certain point, it is
I
water
think
off
they
a duck's
feel
back.
like as
But
soon as you're against them even a little bit,
yeah,
that like
but like, ask them to name
they
a
just kind of
tanky
expect,
position of mine or a communist position of mine. I'm just like, oh, I actually don't think that question was that unfair by Crystal Ball. I can't believe it was insane. He's fucking sweeping for the like. Actually, yeah, we disagree on that. So it's called disagreeing. What's the big deal? What's the fucking big deal?
they feel betrayed by their strongest liberal soldier.
Yeah, I like, and maybe they're right in the sense that like when the left, because some people are like, well, it's because you haven't been the victim of their incessant attacks yet. Well, okay, I mean maybe that's true as a matter of my personality. I'm sure that like if people start adding me and saying I'm bad faith and a lot of them are communists and tankies or whatever, I will take note and I will be like more animated or whatever. But that's just like a very human failing, and it's based on what I see, right? And but again,
Yeah, you're responding.
notwithstanding the criticism from a lot of liberals in my audience and whatever, and writing me off, they haven't changed my positions, and they won't unless I'm convinced. So I haven't abandoned my views just because people, quote unquote, on my side are frustrated with my coverage or with my views. And by the way, I think that my views are better representative of the overall electorate. This is my views, by the way, on like how the Democratic leaders are doing. I think that my position is a better representation of where the party is at. You ask the party, and not just tankies and not just lefties, they are fed up with Schumer, given where like the party, given that it's our leader, -4 for our leader in the Senate. The overall party approval numbers are in the water. I think I'm better representative in terms of that disposition towards the establishment of the party than someone who is an unapologetic defender of, I don't know, the DNC or whatever. I mean, I give some marginal critiques for Ken Martin, and everyone loses their mind on like the release of the autopsy. like the election autopsy, and all of a sudden I'm just like stabbing the Democrats in the back. It's just like so disproportionate to the viewpoints. But I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point at you.
I have one suggestion. Yeah. I have one. After this DSA bullshit is over, this arc. I hate this arc.
It's the same arc that it was like. This is the same exact conversation, by the way.
Yeah. I want a Ryan Getty style, all in on liberalism arc, like the John Ossoff liberalism. Is there a way to just push? Here's this. Let's just talk about the positive things about the liberals and all the negative things about the MAGA, and just be cool. Just why can't we do that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm always going to be
very negative right now on the Democrats.
I'm always going to be favorably inclined to Democratic politicians, and I'm always going to be favorably inclined towards Democratic policies and defending our champions in Congress or whatever. But I'm also never not going to criticize them when they deserve it. That's another point that I think needs to be said. Is
Sure.
I think it's really important actually to put pressure on our own representatives. And sometimes I would say that we suffer for too little of that. And I know that sounds insane to say, but the politicians themselves, I think, are just now starting to feel some urge to conform on some policies, for example. And I want to keep pushing that on court expansion, certainly on this Iran war, the relationship with Israel. Yes, that's included. And I want to make sure that line, the direct line between advocate and party member and representative, that's maintained, and to sort of put the fear into the representatives to conform with what I think is the right approach. That doesn't mean not having some amount of acceptance for people in potentially problematic grounds who are in big battlegrounds, right? Battleground states. I'm willing to support Ossoff, even though he supported the Lake and Riley Act and is more moderate perhaps than I would be in Congress. So yeah,
that's my president right there.
I think Ossoff would be an excellent president. I'd be proud to support Ossoff for president. I think he has a future. He's up, what was it, 14 in Georgia, in fucking Georgia. I mean, this guy's got talent.
He's gonna if he runs for president, I think he clears. I think he'll win so hard. He's so good.
He's great, and he's great in Congress too. He's great in front of a mic. He's great recording stuff, and so that proves to you that
hard liberal. Yeah, love the liberal values. He knows about. He'll talk about it in his speeches.
Yeah. To appeal to Democrats, it doesn't require for you to be an ideologue. I mean, Democrats in the last cycles have not promoted ideologues. They've promoted Obama. Obama's not an ideologue. Biden is not an ideologue on, I would say, most things. And neither Kamala nor Hillary. I would say maybe Hillary is the most of an ideologue among those. Really, I'm just honest. And so I don't think this is just a failure of competency from a lot of Democrats. And it's one that we have to notice and we have to call out. That doesn't mean not supporting them when they do base things, which I do. Even Schumer, I acknowledge, I respect Schumer for what he's done in the past, and I acknowledge when Schumer does things that are based and good. It's just about, I think, not construing every critique or even some pretty nasty critiques as incompatible with, I don't know, this concept of allyship that's being promoted or pushed. Again, I'm just rambling at you, but
I think a good example when you promoted the California prop from Newsom, you always push that.
I gave props to Spanberger for pushing the aborted and failed and bullshittery amendment to the Virginia State Constitution. I absolutely gave her props. Gavin Newsom as well. Made a big post about that. And what people will say, I don't know if they'll say that about me. Maybe they said about Josiah because his YouTube is significantly bigger than his Twitter or something. But if I said that, I made it a post, I'd be like, oh, that's just a post. That's just a post. Yeah. I also said it on stream. I'm sorry, I don't make everything into an edited video. And then that's the thing that kind of gets me. It's kind of nitpicking. Really, dude? It's just, you're going to fly off the handle because it's a tweet as opposed to a video. I mean, maybe that matters at the margin, but I don't really see it. And I also know Josiah has given Gavin Newsom his props. Josiah is blameless on this front. Josiah absolutely supports the party all the way.
Yeah.
Mockler does too. Brian
He's
Tyler
right up
Cohen
there
does
with like your
too.
BTCs and your
Pac-Man,
Pac-Mans.
yes.
And, yeah.
There are up and comers who defend the party, and I do too, frankly.
Mockler.
Yeah, Mockler. I think I said that. What else we got? Anything else, my friend?
No, I think it's, I don't know, it's like the 12th time. I mean, maybe the rehashing is also not good because it doesn't get through to anybody. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to continue. Wait,
We're talking to
message.
we're talking to like Timothy Douglas. Help anything? Would he figure anything out if he sat him down and told him all this stuff again? He probably heard all this stuff already.
Have Timothy come on. I think Timothy, are you in the Discord? You can join if you want.
So I don't know. I just picked him because he was in the chat. But
wait a second.
Anyway, thanks for
thank you.
5 in the morning.
Appreciate you. Hey, drink some coffee later. Okay. Hang on a second. Just let me respond to Mr. Fuckface. What time works for you tomorrow? Let me do the fucking. That's a really cool avatar. He has Darth Vader. I don't know what's up with that. What's the time? Can you give me a time? I should give him a time. He asked for one. If someone asks for your time, you should be polite and give them a time. What time? So Saturday morning. Is when in EST. Okay. I think it would be 8 p.m. That was 8. Okay. Cool. Are we done with everyone? Can we move on to reaction stuff? Everyone should just use UTC mandate. I don't like that. What up, Shadow? Shadowheart. Much others think addressing the far left can be super important. I'm not saying it's not important. It's not like, yeah, sick. Do it. Go for it. Just like, don't come at me if all you got is vibes. I'm having some drop frames, which is annoying. So, let me think. I don't want to do it now, actually, because I keep dropping frames on my stream, and it seems stable still, even though I'm live. Last thing I want is to have it crash out when we're in the middle of a thought. Need to try a few days to stabilize it. My apologies. Okay. Because yeah, I just don't want it to for us to start talking law and for it to just crash out. Yeah, I'm reading the chat. Please address the Turek Obama endorsement. What's that about? I don't know anything about it. Dem pardoning a MAGA witch. Anyone know the reference? I'm assuming that's the mutation of Tina Peters by Jared Polis. What do you think about Chuck Todd saying this new primary election map is made specifically to stop progressives from succeeding? Maybe that's true. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to it. I don't know what the intent was. I think that there are a lot of structural things against progressives that don't entail bad faith or motive. The primary election map for president, which is I think what you're referring to, on that, I'm not sure. And that applies like some normative standard that it like should favor them, right? Which it did for many years with having the Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primaries invariably go first. I think even as a matter of state law. So yeah, that's my response to that is like, maybe it was. I don't have evidence that it was, and I think there's an additional like normative. Should it favor progressives, or should it be quote unquote like what should be the guiding principles behind the schedule? And I'm not convinced it should be done to harm progressive, but I'm also not convinced that it should be done to like benefit them either. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't implicitly have a problem with South Carolina going first, which is what I think it is, right? It would seem to me that like whatever the map is that best accounts for winning the general, that would be my preference on what to prioritize, right? Is to like prioritize swing states that are like up for grabs, or some, or whatever state represents like, but the thing is that's very contingent and hard to design around, you know? So there's going to be priors no matter what. I almost am convinced that maybe it should even be, maybe having it staggered is like a good idea so that people can see how candidates progress. But like, why shouldn't it also be just like done on one day? I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah. I think it's probably good to space out some contests, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I'm kind of just talking to my ass. Do you have any thoughts on proportional voting can eliminate the Democratic schism instead of fighting the... I'm in favor of some form of getting rid of first past the post, but beyond that, the specifics, I'm not really equipped to talk about it. I suspect that I'd be more in favor of ranked choice voting, supposing the algo is good. You really need people to write down what they believe. Yeah, no, I but when you ask that, it's like, what, you want me to fucking, you're the Andrew Wilson of the left, which is like, not true. Get rid of gerrymandering or something. Yeah, that's another thing that I think that should be done that'll negatively affect some of the extremism, which is to get rid of political partisan gerrymandering. But again, that's not the reason I want to do get rid of partisan gerrymandering, but it will be a byproduct, I suspect. Yeah. I'm not going to be back home until September, but then I'll fly it back to New York. If the change is to suppress progressives, what does that say? If the intention is to do that, I think that that's like against the neutrality principle that either is or should be there in the DNC. And again, this neutrality principle didn't used to exist, obviously. And there are some people who say we don't even want a neutrality principle, that the people who run the schedule and all that stuff, they should have some sort of view on the direction of the party. But we like stepped away from that because of all this movement towards just being a manifestation of the Democratic voter as opposed to the Democratic insiders. Or excuse me, how's Japan? Good. Oh shit, I shouldn't be reading out loud. Sorry. Yeah, I like Wickler. I'm not like against Ken Martin, but some of these like stories are kind of sus. Where were we? Was there anyone else who wanted to call in? I saw some potential disagreements in the chat, but just let me know if you want to call in. Otherwise, I want to react to some stuff. If it please, my lord. I don't see if there's any other ats at me. Cool. Ben Wickler stream on. I want to invite Wickler on to Live and Learn. Yeah, so I'm going to react to Wickler's with Ezra. That'll be fun. Wickler TV. Yo, what if Wickler shows up on Wick TV? Can we get a Republican call in? I can't find like my debates with Republicans obviously like do the best always. I can't find Republicans to fucking debate. I know I need to go on TikTok, but like, it's tough out there, and I've tried. I fucking tried. Someone says, I was just in another stream that said high school level U.S. college professors were socialists. It just feels, I'm sorry if this is like a meme at this point, but it does feel like a little bit of a red scare. And maybe there are some reds. There's more reds now or something, but I do think a lot of it's kind of like a cringe freak out. That's me, though. That's me. Yeah, TikTok. I know. You are a Marxist-Leninist. I condemn you. Cringe. I don't know who he voted for, but it seems I don't know who you're talking about. Ira was struggling to get people to debate on TikTok. Oh, no. The well has run dry. Uh-huh. Where to next? All right, I don't see anything. I don't see anything else right now. So we're going to go to React stuff. So we're going to start. Oh, boy. We're going to start with our man. You know who it is. You know him. You love him. You need him. You're a DSA organizer. Can you call in? Oh, yeah, sure. Ah. So this is, well. This is the man. This is the socialist I've been promised. Yeah, where are you at? Do you have Discord? A DSA organizer. Okay. I'm going to prioritize the DSA organizer, and then I'll disagree with Gauntlet or whatever, as long as it's not a troll. Well. If it isn't the DSA organizer. So did you personally write this thing right here about no borders? My opportunity to prove my allegiance. I'm not taking it as a prove allegiance moment. I'm just going to be me. Let's not get so meta. Can you ask him for clarification on a prison abolition? Why? So he can bore us with theories that make me want to sleep? Actually, what's the soy jack? Where it's like the Chad explainer or the Chad non-explainer. Actually, prisons are bad. And then like the virgin prison abolitionist. You guys can make the meme. You understand the meme. That was a joke. Oh, he's not a DSA? I don't know. What are you guys saying? Who was it actually? Who was the organizer? Tyler what? Ruse? Message me on Discord. Message requests. Oh, okay. Can I say your name, the name you have there? I can just call you, right? Do you mind if I call you? Yeah, I didn't like the meta performance stuff. People will do that though. Like, what do you mean by mean? What do you mean by meaning? Can I call you and say this name? Why is the internet so awful? Yes, you can, and no, I don't. Forget what I asked you. Sure and yes. Okay, cool. Call. It's a little laggy. Oh, it's very laggy. Hello. Let's see. Authenticating. RTC connecting. Yo, hello, Mason. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hey, am I coming in?
I think you're coming in. Just say one more thing.
I think there's a little bit of a delay.
There is a delay, and so we're gonna have to be very generous with like our pauses after we're done talking.
Okay. No issues. Try to be, I guess, robotic with the conversation a little
Yeah.
bit, but
Sorry.
yeah, I don't know. Just a couple questions. I've been following like some of your recent debates about
Mm-hmm.
like the DSA freak out and stuff like that, and I'm not going to get into long-winded of a thing about my background, but I've been kind of like I probably like your average sort of disillusioned, like lefty, critical of Democratic Party or whatever. But I think in the wake of Trump, like I think I've changed a little bit just in terms of like wanting to be like active. And Kamala was actually the first president that I voted for. I voted in other elections, just not for president. But you know, I think the lesser of two evil things kind of um, convinced me to do that. But anyways, um, so do you think that there's, you know how like some of your detractors will say
Mhm.
like if you don't call out certain things harshly enough, it'll run rampant and all this kind of stuff. Do you think that there's like anything of like a Streisand effect? Like when people say, "Oh, defund the police is gonna, um, you know, hurt the Democratic Party, or whatever, and all these different races," and it's like that's what's that like the reason why the Democratic brand is so bad is because of all these lefties saying defund the police. It's like, do you think that like centrist Democrats like kind of just add fuel to that fire with them freaking out over it and saying like the next coming of Lenin is on its way and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So in response, like I first of all, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. When you say DSA organizer, I assume some affiliation to the organization, but you don't need to go super in depth. And so I appreciate you talking a little bit. And thank you for laying
Yeah,
out.
I'm
Yeah.
Central Connecticut DSA.
Sick. Great state. Um, I will say that I don't have like empirical proof for what I'm about to say in terms of like polling. I have like suspicions. My suspicion is that the failures of the Democratic brand have more to do with, like, for example, Biden's failure to win and decision to run again, have to do more with like inflation, have to do more with like this perception of lack of success that Ezra Klein points to and other people in California, etc., on transportation and housing prices and all that stuff. So that's where I think a lot of the brand issues come from. That's my suspicion. I can't 100% prove it. On the issue of like whether it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where the critiques, I don't know, like the Fox News style framing gets repeated by people on the left, where that adds to it. I just like don't know. I don't know. Like maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't have a strong view on it. I'm okay with people in general, people leveling like true critiques if there were. Oh my god, I almost choked on nothing. You ever choke on nothing? That was crazy. My bad.
I'm not gonna admit to that.
Okay, I just choked on nothing. My suspicion is that if you amplify something, it gets further settled in the zeitgeist. But again, I'm also someone who like a reversion to the mean. None of this matters. This online stuff is very, very online, and people aren't as connected to like the political discourse that's happening in these micro circles or even like major political channels. You know?
Yes. Of course. Like doing door knocking, that's probably the most apparent thing is like how these lines, even between like party, like, oh, we're the conservatives and we're the Republicans. A lot of people are kind of like a mix all over the place. And yeah, they might favor more regularly one party than the other. But like, even along party lines, there's a lot more color and shades of gray in the hearts and minds of people than people typically admit. And then when you're talking about things like specific ideological, like most people, yeah, I totally agree.
But again, I don't know, right? Like,
yeah.
maybe it's the case that it doesn't really change anything at all. My guess is also like people who are prone to that narrative probably already believe it, right? Like the people who are apt to believe that shit probably already believe it. Fucking Ben Wickler talks about this in his Ezra Klein interview as well, where he says the people who are reachable like aren't plugged in, and so there's even less of a reason, in my opinion, to think that that it has any impact. But again, that's just like, maybe there is evidence that it does. So when people like from the left wing say, you guys are the ones who are fucking over our chances because you're calling us all tankers and you're promoting the Fox News narrative, like, I don't know that that's true either. That's all a way of me saying is I'm more of a believer in the fundamentals than I am in like specific discourses.
Have you ever heard the like this sort of like back and forth that is kind of common online between more centrist center left people and I guess the further left people, which is like these accusatory claims that like back in like the Weimar Republic, it's the centrists that were collaborating with the Nazis, and or really it was the communists and the socialists that were. Have you heard these types of claims before?
Yeah, they're based on some evidence that I think the center party or the there was a party I believe in Weimar called the centrists or something like that, and they had like I think a mixed bag in terms of their record. Certainly some other more traditional conservative parties in literally being part of the coalition with Hitler. But I think the complaint on the Communist Party of Germany was specifically that they, one, there was an ideological push to, and even terminology invented to consider liberals as equivalent to fascists. And so there was an ideological push, so much so that Trotsky had to send a message. Trotsky sent a letter to the communists in Germany saying, you need to make common cause with the liberals, because if you don't, I've read the letter, it's remarkable.
Right.
And Trotsky himself is I'm going to say, of a tanky persuasion. Even tanky Trotsky sends a message to the Communist Party of Germany to say, make common cause with the liberals. And they didn't do that. And so that's why there's a lot of frustration against the Communist Party of Germany, is precisely because they failed in that moment. Now, there's also a ton of evidence that during many of these like critical votes, Hitler was rounding up communists anyway. They were the first ones who were being targeted by the after the Reichstag fire and during like the whole Enabling Act votes and stuff. And so they were also being targeted. But yeah, that's why people are frustrated with the Communist Party of Germany, as I understand it.
I've never heard of this letter from Trotsky to whatever communist leader or whatever. I'm definitely going to look that up because that sounds very interesting. But that's actually the heart of the matter that I wanted to bring up, is like, I'm just like a dude. Like I'm a stonemason. I'm not an expert in anything, but like from my narrow like understanding of that time of history, it seems like the big failure to me was the sort of intractable nature of the differences between the more centrist, I guess, just in terms of our language that we would use, like the centrist and the communists or the leftists. And I feel like maybe like there's a little bit of like a feeling of like, man, history's repeating a little bit. And despite the fact that I am like, I would consider myself very left on a lot of things, it's kind of despairing when I see like all this vitriol from like certain personalities, actually. And it's not just centrist, like even sometimes I get like, I'm very left. I listen to like, for instance, Majority Report all the time. Sometimes I get a little bit discouraged when like there's like just a certain kind of attitude from those guys about like I guess them just kind of wanting to shit on centrists. And like, look, I think everyone is up for criticism, and but like I just think that the sort of the gamification of all this kind of stuff, where just everyone wants to get dunked on and everyone wants to get shit on, and it's, I think in the wake, when you look at the stuff with like the Supreme Court and Donald Trump's immunity case and so many things, I mean, I just feel like there's so much bigger fish to fry. And I guess not to be too masturbatory or whatever, but I kind of applaud you for, I feel like, walking a fine line where it's like, I don't think you do those kinds of stuff. And it's actually more refreshing to listen to you in these conversations than other people. But yeah, I think
appreciate
that's pretty
that.
much all I wanted to say. But yeah,
I think that that the reason why I get this from some left wingers, they appreciate my content is not just because, occasionally Hutch and I will get in a spat, and influencer wise, they probably want to see Hutch like debated against, and they want to see someone challenge him, and so I often do that and serve that function on the podcast. But I think that there's like a further impression that I sometimes give some of these leftists is like they can't predict just because of my allegiance what I'm about to say on something, right? And so I'll say something like that no one really on the liberal left says, and it's like, yeah, I think it's probably likely that this global entry revocation for Hassan Piker was a result of viewpoint discrimination and illegal conduct by the government, and it was wrong, right? Now, if you were just going by like which side you're on, of course, it's a very foolish thing for me to make common cause with someone who's considered such a strong quote-unquote enemy for the people who are in my camp, and they appreciate that, and they're like, oh wait, this guy's saying that. And there have been multiple instances like that as well where, for example, I endorsed Mamdani during the primary, the New York primary, because I wanted to see Cuomo defeated, because I thought that he would be more likely to be collaborative with Trump and more collaborative with ICE than Mamdani would be, among other reasons, but those were some crucial ones for me not to support.
Yeah, among other reasons.
Yeah, correct. In addition to allegations and stuff, whatever. But yeah, and then so people will see that and be like, oh, but then sometimes like I'm not like becoming a socialist. I'm just applying like a consistent frame, and that's why I think that there is this appreciation. Now, really, a lot of my views are predictable. Like it should be eminently predictable. Here's an example, right? The College Democrats of America excluded a bunch of DGGers from attending and seeing Hassan Piker speak. Now, here you have a bunch of people who have been poisoned against me in my view, or who think that I'm like a tanky sweeper. They expect me to be like, oh, it's no big deal. But actually, I come out and I say, I am against this, and this is really bad. And it's because it's a track record I have of keeping spaces open for channels of communication, and especially for people who think differently, and even prioritizing people who think differently, and especially in Democrat spaces, prioritizing people who are more core, supporters of Democrats. So that should be predictable given my values. And yet, it surprised some people that, oh, wow, wait, but I thought that he was like antagonistic with DGG now. Well, maybe we shouldn't do these predictions of my position based on like who socially I'm cool with, or based on like what my camp is. And I don't want to be sort of pigeonholed into just being in that sense. So I appreciate you saying that, and that at least some people appreciate it.
As someone who's just sitting here when I'm off playing video games, listening to all this stuff online or whatever, in my opinion, I think, bro, I don't think you should really like think about this stuff too much. I feel like your heart and your mind is in the right place. And I think the last thing I'll just
I have some questions for you before you leave, but yes, go
on. Okay. on this topic is just that there's things about, I guess, both. I think that the again, this apparent intractability with like the DSA being able to work with the Democrats. Like, first of all, the DSA worked with the Democrats because the two-party system is entrenched in the nature of our government, and the idea of like running nationally with like a third or other party is just not particularly feasible as it stands right now. And DSA, to their credit, is kind of doing the work to make it feasible in the future, because they have been for a number of years now, building themselves up from like the local level. Most of what I do is like council person, assembly persons, board of education. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The last thing I just want to say on all of this stuff is just that there's things about both sides that upset me, but I think from like the more like, I guess, the what's his name, Wick and Hutch and I guess Destiny, these people, is that when I kind of look at their vibe check on the 2024 election and how they were totally against there being a primary. And even after the debate, you know, they were very skeptical of Biden dropping out. And to me, like, I'm not gonna like sit here and rehash this and relitigate this, but it seemed pretty clear to me for a long time that like you know, there probably should have been a primary. And I
For
think
who?
that
There was a primary. You mean for
that
Biden or Kamala?
you know for a primary in 2024 for
There was.
Biden after his first term.
There was a primary.
Not to my knowledge. A primary with who? Marianne Williamson?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no one really paid attention to that. There was no debate.
There should have been a competitive primary.
Like, there should have been a competitive primary,
agreed.
one that the media and the party took seriously.
Yes.
And and I think that like a lot of these critics, for them to have gotten that so wrong and not really come to terms with that and not shown some humility on that and be so gun-ho about all these leftists that are winning these really impressive races, just keeping it real. You know, they need to not be seated on committees and yada yada yada.
Well, I don't
and
agree
we
with
need
that.
to denounce them at the highest levels and stuff like that. But you get what I'm saying is like these guys sort of trying to scapegoat leftist and DSA for so many of the issues. For me, I think that's the most frustrating thing listening to them, is them not really being able to have an honest look at where they you know, prognosticated incorrectly, and then looking at other people who want to try to make a difference, who maybe didn't have a voice before, and being like, you guys are the problem, you're the reason why everyone lost. But anyways, it's
yeah, I just want to respond to that real quick. So like I don't agree with like
program.
not seating people on committees and stuff if they're like the winners, or like being like, you know, incredibly. I think we should be strategic about our committee doleouts. And that does mean that like sometimes the people with more charisma or seniority or who are better at stuff should be favored. So there's just a bunch of different sets of criteria for which I would prioritize like valuable committee assignments and that kind of shit. But beyond that, and this doesn't apply necessarily to you because you voted for Kamala in 2024, I will tell you that there is a deep, pure, red center of rage in my heart for every single person, including and especially left-wingers, who did not vote for Kamala Harris in 2024, and it will never go away. I obviously like don't believe that the empirical case has been made that lefties overall cost Kamala the election. And that's another reason why I think that like we can't have it both ways. Like Hassan can't have it both ways, that we should have listened to me, but we didn't cost him the election. Likewise, it can't just be said that they shouldn't be listened to, but they did cost them the election. Both things I think are inconsistent. But that is to say, any individual who didn't see that Kamala was the lesser two evils in 2024, and I understand some people could have been confused, they don't know the right information, whatever. It's still there. I mean, that deep-seated rage I have for what's being done to my country, what the fuck they're doing to our home, that will never ever fully go away. And so,
well, I'm that person that never votes for president.
I appreciate that you,
but I did because. No, I just want to say I did because like when I saw all the court cases, the myriad court cases against Donald Trump, basically all fizzle out, except one that I want to bring up very briefly in respect to what you were saying about seating people on different committees and stuff like that. But when I saw all these court cases dissolve, that kind of really put, I think, an impetus. I felt like a responsibility personally, almost like, holy shit, like these institutions are not going to hold this guy accountable. Like I actually do have to show up for this lesser of two evil, even if this kind of, I find it to be vomitous or whatever. So nonetheless, I don't have hatred, but I definitely agree with where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, I like, it's not enough that I can't, like, I'm in triage mode. And so I just want to win. Success is the best revenge. We can do a retrospective and I have, by the way, in terms of like who is to blame and the stupidity of people. I am in triage mode, and I want to win. But here's what people, I think it's a lot for the Democrat to stomach, is being lectured to by influencers who didn't explicitly make clear who they wanted to win the election in 2024, and frankly endorse, and for them to then make recommendations as to the future direction of the party. That will always rub people who did vote and did see from either time equals zero, by which I mean 2015,
Right.
or from 2020, or that very election, who did see who this guy was and everyone around him. That will always rub me and everyone else the wrong way. It's not enough that I will like be irrational and not. It will. Some people will be irrational, but I will try not to be irrational and consider policies on their own merits.
Sure.
But like understand that people who were in that position later on trying to like seize the party or dictate or talk down and say who real Democrats are and who are not real Democrats, that is like acid to accept and to stomach. And that's one of the reasons why I think this college DSA thing got the attention it deserved. Is I'm like, who is this guy in a mouse suit coming to this college event who did not make explicit what should have been made explicit, and demanding to lead the direction of the party? That's not gonna be stomached by people well. And I understand that anger and frustration and rage.
Yeah. I don't have any comments on the situation, but very, very quickly on the committee seats and the new members. I like you were saying, there's a lot of different reasons to have certain people on certain committees and different positions within those committees, et cetera, et cetera. I will say that I think that I see a example of reasons why it's important to get new voices on some of these committees. If you recall, during the Michael Cohen like congressional testimony thing or whatever, he got like subpoenaed or something to testify. During that hearing,
Michael Cohen, you said?
he lied about what?
Michael Cohen, you're saying, right?
Yes.
About I believe the
Michael
false
Cohen,
statements,
Trump's former fixer.
and his lawyer. I believe that they were statements regarding the campaign finance issue and some arrangements with Trump. I could be wrong about that, though. I don't remember.
Yes.
I think that's right.
No,
or maybe some tax stuff, or maybe some weather, or
there
some,
might have been multiple hearings,
or the Russia tower. I don't know
exactly. So
yeah.
All of the above. So I believe the hearing was after he had gotten out of prison and he was on his kind of his mea culpa tour or whatever. I think he literally wrote a book or had a podcast or something called Mea Culpa or some shit. And
now he's like kind of turned around a little bit. He's become like a little bit more Trump-sexual, I think.
I have no idea. But that hearing was really interesting because I can't remember exactly why they had that hearing. If it was just to literally have Michael Cohen talk shit about Trump or something like that. I think it was like you're saying about the Stormy Daniels thing or whatever. But a number of people on it was, I think the Judicial Committee had asked some various questions, and a lot of them were along similar lines about like Russia, and I don't know, just like a lot of questions that from what I can remember just didn't feel very substantive. But I remember watching the thing, and AOC, who I don't know if she was a freshman, but she was pretty green at that point, had asked him about the Trump org finances and about the strategic inflating.
He's the point that she did a really good job in the committee and that we should be prioritizing talent over seniority.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
She did the thing. Oh, you know what I mean? She did the thing that Republicans did to Clinton with the whole server investigation. I just want to say, I agree that on the ropes.
I agree that talent should be prioritized. That said, it's not everything. And for example, Dan Goldman, really good in hearings. I still endorse Brad Lander. And so I hear you. I think the talent should dominate, but it's not clear to me that all lefties are talented. see, for example, Jamal Bowman. I don't think Bowman is particularly talented. I don't think all these lefties are talented. I don't think all of them are AOCs.
I
Ossoff
mean,
is
it's
really, really talented,
talented.
and he's more moderate.
I'm not necessarily. I'm definitely biased because I am a lefty. I didn't necessarily insinuate that lefties should get all the positions that they want or whatever. I'm just saying that, I think the idea of having a new voice, just from an example I could see there, can sometimes be very effective because maybe they're just kind of looking at things with fresh eyes, et cetera, et cetera. That's all.
Yeah, I expect this to be, some deal that's made, some arrangement that's made. A lot of these committee spots are incredibly valuable, and not just for the public PR thing. Things like, Ways and Means,
Right.
and not just like oversight judiciaries. Some of these places, and depending on your constituency, really, really matter. And so I'm not so much in the like you got to go to IRI for the more inside baseball there. My only inclination is for places like oversight and judiciary committee, places that, for example, would be running impeachment or at least looking at corruption. I want those people to be obviously like charismatic and able to be on camera and extemporaneously like take
Yes.
questions and shit. So that's my
Right.
one request is for the committees where there's a really public facing component to it, or where the issue pertains to like investigations. I want those guys to be killers, sometimes preferably lawyers, though not always. And that's my only preference there.
Sure. I think I pretty much said everything I had to say. You said you had some questions.
Yeah. So you said you voted in 2024 for Kamala. My inclination is that most people who are far left also
First
voted for Kamala.
president.
Yeah, but like, what is it that convinced you for the first time to vote for Kamala? Obviously, Trump was up in 2020, and he was up in 2016. Is it just that were you eligible to vote in those years?
Yeah, so I'm 30 years old. I
Okay.
was able to vote in the Clinton-Trump election. Was the first one I think I was able to vote
Yeah, why'd you
in.
sit that one out?
Presidential anyways. And just because like I'm kind of just like one of these like disillusioned, like cynical, it's all bullshit uniparty. That's kind of historically kind of like been my sort of thought process or whatever.
And where do you think?
I was
Because,
really disenchanted by Hillary Clinton.
because people will
Like I think
will say that some of
Go
these
for it.
influencers promote this kind of feeling. That's how they tie the causality. Okay, maybe you can't show
Right.
statistically that they have this effect. And again, that is an empirical question where
Yeah.
my suspicion is someone like Kyle Kalinske, just by doing the content he does, probably more pushes in favor of Democrats in terms of his net effect. But I can't prove it. But there are specific instances of individuals, anecdotes of people who will trace where they're disillusioned into this uniparty stuff that you now reject in 2024 that you rejected. And so where did that come from? Or can you sort of pinpoint it? Where did that develop? Is it for certain influencers that influence you that way?
Yeah, it's kind of like I think it's two main things. I don't think that simply from peak. I've always listened to, just me personally, a lot of different sources of information, and even though I lean a lot more left, I feel like I'm pretty open-minded. I'm pretty tolerant of a lot of people's ideas, and I feel like I'm the type of person that always tries to see the shades of gray and not get too fixed in like binaries and stuff like that. So I can't really say like, oh, these group of people influence me this way or that this group of, I think in totality of like everything that I had been absorbing my entire life, I just was not convinced to vote for Democrats. Um, I think there, for me, there's this idea of, so very, very quickly, my parents or my mother, I'll just say, was a real estate broker. When I was growing up, we had a really nice house and stuff like that. In 2008, we lost it during the crash. She also didn't do very well in terms of the business, and we suffered a lot. And I was like 13 at the time, and I thought Obama was like going to save my mom, save the house, save me, and none of that stuff kind of happened. And I think that's kind of like the reason why it wasn't like because of any influencer that made me like super angry at politics or whatever. I always listen to everyone. I think it was my personal life experience that kind of made me like not um really have faith in the Democratic Party. And I think yeah, and when Bernie came along, he was saying things about corporate influence in these elections, and ideas about having like maybe publicly funded elections or no corporate PAC money and all this kind of stuff. And that really resonated with me. I feel like that kind of explains a lot of what I don't like about Democrats. Is I feel like a lot of the policies that they're in favor of at the end of the day are supported by some special interest.
But Bernie endorsed
And
Hillary.
just in terms of
Why did
what
that put
changed
you over
for
the edge?
Kamala,
Sorry for the delay.
I don't give a shit. No, you're fine. I don't, that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, like, I didn't, Hillary Clinton to me just represented everything of my, I like stereotype of like an awful corporate Democrat. I mean, she was literally taking $250,000, like, I would call it a bribe from like, these banks or whatever during her campaign to have these like private speeches where we found out that she was literally saying different things in those rooms than she was saying in public. So I mean, just like stuff like that, just not really
Do you regret
not
it?
really impressed. I don't know, but why? No, actually, not at all. Not at all. I think that I used to always say that there needs to be fire in the streets for quote unquote the centrists to wake up and smell the roses. I think it goes both ways. With Trump, we got fire on the street. I think that the corporate Democrats need to wake up and smell the roses. But I also think that us lefties need to wake up and smell the roses too. So I don't think it's just a one side problem. I think it's kind of a two-way street. And yeah, like I said, with the court cases, all of those things dissolving, and this guy Trump seeing to be like the fucking what's the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean? The Jack Sparrow of politics, just getting away with everything. That really just. And then I had a girlfriend at the time who was like very liberal or whatever, so that kind of influenced me too. So yeah,
I just don't understand why you voted in
I think Trump should.
2024
I think
and
yeah.
you don't regret your vote in 2016, knowing what you know now. If you knew then what you know now.
I think Hillary Clinton is that awful of a candidate.
Compared to Trump?
Yeah, you know what? I do. And even though I don't like the policies of Trump, what I kind of do appreciate about Trump is him exposing the possibility of politics. I think even though he's one of the least compelling people I have ever seen open their mouths, he really is impressive insofar as how far he's taken this thing. And like just how successful on his own terms in a lot of ways he is. Trump is not worried about these factional stuff or the parliamentarian, or if he wants to do something, he puts his head down, he goes to the bully pulpit and he fights for that. And I can see the appeal of that. And so I mean, no, I don't, and I didn't vote for Trump. I just didn't vote. Do better. Get a candidate that isn't a corporate hack, and I'll vote for you. Now, was Kamala a corporate hack? I mean, honestly, I could care less. At this point, I just couldn't see Trump again. I just felt like.
But I'm giving you a scenario where
he was about to enter the presidency with too much power.
I'm giving you a scenario where you know then what you know now. I'm giving you a scenario we can stop this nonsense at its source.
Right.
And this is the frustration. Sorry that we can't make this a more back and forth debate just because of the delay. I would want that. But
sorry.
Yeah, I would if this delay wasn't so massive. Like, this is the frustration. We're sitting here in 2026. The midterms are almost here, and you're saying you don't regret your non-vote for Hillary Clinton, even after everything you've seen. And that to me, like, makes me think that you won't vote if there's I guess I'll ask you, if there's a Josh Shapiro candidacy in 2028, you're not reliable if you don't say that this wasn't a mistake.
Dude, I gotta tell you, my allegiance is not to anyone else's like moral conscience or to the Democratic Party. It's to myself. It's my vote. And I might not vote for a centrist Democrat this next upcoming election. Just keeping it real. I mean, that's my decision. I'm not controlled by the Democratic Party. I will vote for the candidate that I like. I'll register as Democrat so I can vote in the primary. Hopefully they put up a candidate that I find palatable, and I'll vote for them. But if there's like, listen, you're not going to make everyone happy. That's just the nature of this game. And people like me have been displeased for a long time and will probably continue to be displeased even with recent successes for an even longer time. That's just the nature of it. But I don't have to, like, if people want to shove a shit sandwich down my mouth, fine, but I don't have to put it in my mouth.
Even if it saves lives?
I mean, that's part of the reason why I voted for Kamala. By the way, this is not
but
like
we have two different
an
approaches.
absolutist thing. Like, I'm not saying like I'm gonna do this every single time and give me the perfect candidate. I'm just saying I'm not obligated to vote for anyone. That's all.
You mean morally obligated? I would say you are. I mean, what you're expressing is a very selfish view of your responsibilities as a citizen, that
Right.
my vote only matters to me, and as opposed to what I would think would be a socialist outlook, which is it's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Well, I think that I don't think that you're wrong, and I think that it's possible for more than one thing to be true at the same time, which is probably why I've had a little bit of a conflicted record or a contradictory record on presidential voting in the past. I haven't in the first two elections. I did this one despite certain reservations or whatever, and we'll see what we got going forward. Like if let me put it this way, like if an APAC backed Chelsea Clinton somehow becomes the our nominee for, like, there's a good chance I might not. I don't know for sure.
I would cut off
Maybe
my
she'll
hand to
impress
vote
me,
for her,
but I
not
could see
to make her president. I would cut off my hand to make her president. And I think that you over JD
Yeah,
Vance.
No.
I mean,
Chelsea Clinton over JD Vance. I mean, look,
it's remarkable.
I would
you come
probably
here
want
and
Chelsea Clinton to win.
then what's okay? You wanting her to win? Why wouldn't you do the thing you want to happen?
I might do it. I did last time. I might do it again. I mean,
Why
it's
shouldn't
really
your
just
vote
I'm not
reflect
really,
your preference?
I'm not really. I don't. I really can't give you an answer to that question, Pisco. I'm sorry. I know you're looking for some like
okay.
perfect
I
moral
we should schedule it when.
consistency or
Yeah, I know.
whatever,
We should
I'm a
schedule
human-
back. I understand. We should schedule back and forth when the connection is such that it's not a huge delay. But I just want to let you know, like, this is the perfect encapsulation of the feeling that is pushed to me in all these debates by the people who are saying that I'm downplaying or sweeping, which is these people aren't in it for the team. They're not in it for our country. And that's how you just express yourself. And I think that's a very selfish way of thinking about your
I
vote.
feel like I'm in it for the country. I don't feel like I'm in it for the team. I do feel like I'm in it for the country. I don't feel like I'm in it for the team. And like, I think you can kind of see that because, like, hey, maybe I don't vote for Chelsea Clinton in the next election, but I on the as a DSA organizer, like, I'm on the electoral subcommittee. Like, I do like the canvassing and the door knocking, and I actually do canvass for like run of the mill Democrats all the time simply because they asked DSA for our endorsement and we were happy to give it to them. So I go out and knock for them and I
Why not
campaign
carry
for
that
them.
forward to
So,
your
I mean,
vote?
like, it's
is
kind
what
of
I
like,
don't understand.
dude, I can't give you a perfect answer. And the only thing I could say is that like human beings are not perfect creatures. We don't have all the perfect answers. And I don't have a perfect answer as to yes I will, yes I won't, or why I will or why I won't. I suppose when we get there, we get there. But but to what you said before, I don't have any allegiance to the Democratic Party, and I think that is a very stupid way of looking at politics.
But you want to take over the Democratic Party.
I don't care to take. I think I would prefer there to be 4 parties, but it's not really.
Given its lack
like
of feasibility, you would prefer to take over,
the nature
right?
of the hit.
Your ideology.
If it's, would I prefer my ideology to take over?
Yeah, it should be easy, right?
I mean, I'm not really like super. I'm not really super like just me personally. Like I'm not really super like make people believe what I believe type of person. So you might be asking like the wrong person.
Why?
In terms
You're
of that,
an
but would I
organizer for
prefer
the
that
DSA.
Democratic-
Why wouldn't you want people to believe what you believe? That's your job.
Yeah, but like I think you're yeah, but it's a two-way street. Like it's not just about talking to people, it's also about listening to people. It's about finding a middle ground and not just shoving something down someone's throat. So like yes, but not necessarily. I think it's a little more complicated than that.
Okay, we can move off the voting stuff and let's talk about it later at some point. But here's a scenario.
Hmm.
The scenario is as follows: you believe there's a genocide in Gaza, fair?
Do I believe there's a genocide in Gaza?
Yeah, or there was. Is or was?
Is that the question?
Yes.
I think there's pretty indisputably like an attempt of ethnic cleansing. I don't really care about the label of genocide so much. I don't contend with people who say it is or isn't.
Okay.
I think it's probably an ethnic
But
cleansing.
bad shit going on, fair to say, regardless of how you characterize it.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, Israel's fucking up for sure.
If there was a deal presented to you, and you get the sign off, which is peace and an end to hostilities and a recognition of 67 borders, but a requirement that Palestinians disclaim any claim to other parts of the region, including Jerusalem, to stop the genocide. Yeah. You taking that deal right now?
I would take any deal that brings peace.
You would see that
like
deal as
long-lasting peace. I don't care what the outlines of the deal is. I don't care
you
about
would,
like
you would do that deal as
imperfect,
imperfect, wouldn't you? As potentially unjust.
67 borders, and Palestine couldn't try to basically
no right of return.
Try to take each other's land, and they had established borders.
Yeah,
right.
Without any right of return, without any.
I mean that sounds
okay. But on your view, maybe an imperfect deal, correct?
As long as
you'd be okay with an imperfect deal.
If they had established borders and I would be okay with an imperfect deal, but I just want a long-lasting peace, whatever that looks like. Even a short peace, any kind of peace.
Even if it's non-ideal, even if it's unjust, right? Even if there's no accounting for any of the harms or crimes.
Sure.
If you would sign that deal, and I think that you would be correct to sign that deal morally, and accept an imperfect deal, what is it that's so special about your vote that would make you not support an imperfect candidate?
Well, I gotta work, It's like the difference between dude, I work 8, 10, 12 hours. I'm not working right now because it's raining, but I work 8, 10, 12 hours outside busting my ass, like doing patios and walls and stuff like that. And then I got to find food and wash off and, you know what I mean, with like a few hours left in the day, finding time in the day to go vote for, some asshole. Like, I would want it to be somewhat convincing.
No, but that's a
It's
cop out
not,
because you do vote. You said you voted. You vote in a way that is costly. It's marginal in terms of the cost. Hopefully, it doesn't get much more expensive. The reason I'm saying this is people have this attitude that somehow their vote is wrapped up in their identity. I propose to you that you treat your vote like you would treat any situation where there's there's a correct, less bad option to go. You don't need to make your vote your identity. You can still be a democratic socialist and vote for Hillary Clinton, but you just showed yourself, right? Like, because I don't mean to say that like
hold
you
on,
expose
can I
yourself.
just really quickly, the person in chat that put the milk, the baby milk bottle, I'm like trying not to laugh. I'm sorry.
Like you're saying, like
Sorry
I need
cut
to
you off.
like
I just thought that was
feed
hilarious.
myself and do, like you can vote. What do you mean? You can vote. But even putting aside, like, why you just said like you would accept an imperfect, like these are foundational final status issues on an issue that is like a top concern for DSA, top concern for left wingers. You would sign on to an imperfect deal, but you won't vote for an imperfect candidate. And I suspect the reason for that is that there's something wrapped up about your vote and your identity, that you'd be betraying your identity by doing that. But would it be any more betraying your identity than accepting an imperfect deal? Why should it be? It's a means to an end. That's how you should treat the vote.
I had said before, I acknowledge that, I am not necessarily disagreeing with the logic of what you're saying. I'm just acknowledging that, like, in my, in the past, I haven't necessarily always felt that way. And even now, even if I have sort of bucked that trend, even now I'm not necessarily like completely convinced one way or another. Like I think two things can be true. I think withholding your vote can be valuable. I also think voting for lesser of two evils can be true. And I've never really honestly thought about it too hard until I feel like I'm having this conversation now. And maybe part of that is just tied up with, I think, the reason why I even began caring about politics when I was like 13 anyways. It's just because like I lost my house and I went broke, and I thought like Obama and the Democrats like were gonna like come through and like help us, and like they bailed out the banks and they didn't. And I feel like that kind of is like that is like my political foundation, and that's probably like what kind of colors
I say use it. I say that's good. I say use that.
Part of who,
I say use that and externalize it. Now think about everyone else's home who's going to burn down because this fuckface Trump is not properly caring for emergency funds, not properly doing what he needs to protect from, the ravages of diseases. Use what your experience is and think about everyone else who might have to go through what you went through, what was so formative for you. And say, if I can prevent it, I will. Now, I know you're just one person. Your vote wouldn't have mattered in that sense. But at least in your community, in your area, like, that should be motivating for you, is to put a stop to the fucking corruption, the bloodshed, the useless tribulations that all these people are going through because our country has elected a madman.
do you think that I don't think I've ever heard you use this language. So I just want to acknowledge again that not only do I not deny the logic of what you're saying, I would agree with it in many ways and see the truth to what you're saying. But like, I think you've been hearing my appeal, which is like, it's just kind of, I feel like Hillary Clinton is like a corrupt, rotten to the core politician. That's why it's so difficult for me to imagine myself voting for her. Do you think that there are any Democratic politicians that are like actually corrupt?
Yes.
We
Easily.
see like sort of these comical examples with Bob Menendez or whatever.
Menendez, Mayor Adams, Ron Blagojevich. I think that so this is, I don't think that Biden overall was corrupt, but Biden had corruption. I think that the pardon of Hunter Biden was corrupt. I think that there are aspects of Clinton's,
I think that was corrupt, but
Bill
that was
Clinton,
like one of like the one of the purest corrupt things I think he could have done. Just just making that small point. Like
I
definitely
know that.
understand why he did it, but I agree with you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like a corruption. That's like one of my top issues. And so whether or not it's understandable, I'm still like very anti-corruption. Obviously, the early Democratic Party, insanely corrupt. We're talking about like Tammany Hall and shit. Before that, fucking Confederates, traitors. So,
Right.
so like, there's plenty of examples, both contemporaneously, historically, of Democratic corruption. I think that the Kennedys are.
What about Hillary Clinton? Do you think that she was corrupt?
I think that's the big some of the like actions taken in the as Secretary of State that are often pointed to as corrupt are not actually corrupt. I think that a lot of I think you would struggle to point to something that's corrupt. Like you
Okay.
pointed to like speeches and stuff as this kind of like pay for play thing or whatever.
What about her
but to me that's not
the
corruption.
Clinton Foundation? Yeah,
Yeah, like can you explain what is corrupt about the Clinton
the
Foundation?
Clinton Foundation.
What do they do?
Well, I mean, I think that it's very difficult to. I don't have an exact litany of things right now, but I mean, my
you have
understanding
a litany
is
of things
it's
for
sort of
Trump, right?
this-
Do you have a litany? Wait, I
It's-
just want to pause. I just want to pause real quick. Don't say emails. Don't say like the campaign finance stuff. Like anything that any of the big cases of corruption, Benghazi, all that stuff. All that is like bullshit. And I think people struggle to find that, but you don't struggle at all when it comes to Trump. With Trump, it's like every week there's something new. But I think right now,
True.
without looking at anything right now, I think you would struggle to come up with one action
True.
that Hillary Clinton took that was corrupt.
Well, there might be.
I think you would have to be honest
Something
with
to say
yourself.
to
You would
that,
struggle
which is
with it.
that,
I
like-
think you're struggling to come up with one instance,
Yeah.
and if you had it, you would produce it.
Well, I mean, Trump is such an attention grabbing person and such an outrageous person that, like, Hillary Clinton is more like she I think has an ability to be more subtle than I think Trump does. So like that's not necessarily completely
Yeah, but it's
surprising to
informing
me.
you. Yeah.
Also, like,
You're giving an
this is a
explanation for
person
why
who's-
you can't extemporaneously provide it, but like you're
Mhm.
saying you're looking back right now as you sit here and like you don't regret the vote for Hillary Clinton. It's based on this notion that she's like an insider corrupt, and there's aspects of that which I understand the vibe of it. But when you start to peel the onion, I'm like, wait, why? Why do I think she's so corrupt? And then I'm like, well, was that step ever
Well,
taken?
the private server thing was kind of corrupt,
no,
right?
no. What
Because
about it
she
was corrupt?
No.
No.
Well, you're not. I think when you have a government, when you're conducting official government business, it's supposed to be on like government emails, correct? Because
Oh yeah, it violated policy, but it didn't. In my view,
you're not.
but that's not corruption.
And you're
Just
not
because
supposed.
yes, absolutely, it wasn't supposed to happen. But that's not corruption, right? I understand corruption to be some sort of government action taken for some sort of improper benefit, things like enriching oneself, right? Things
Right.
like helping out family members, and with like
Sure.
that's the shit that Trump's doing, right? But just because you're like violating some, even if you violate some laws, even if you violate some criminal laws, I don't take all violations of criminal law to necessarily be corrupt. Like you wouldn't say speeding is corrupt. If someone in good faith, let's say, even violated a criminal statute, but did violate it, I wouldn't even say that's necessarily corrupt. Corruption, the sine qua non of corruption is the use of official power, in my view, the use of official power for like definitional improper ends. And I don't think that was there on the private email server. It was for convenience. It
Okay,
was
on another day
yeah.
when
Yeah, sure.
No, on another day when you're up early in the morning and you don't have too much going on, maybe we could revisit this and I can present you the actual case for Hillary Clinton's corruption. But that is definitely the vibe.
No, I hear you. Listen, I'm not saying. I think there are things that Bill Clinton did that were corrupt, and there maybe are some things that Hillary Clinton did that are corrupt, for sure. But a lot of the major talking points that people will point to, those ones are just garbage. Benghazi, garbage.
Sure.
Email stuff, in my opinion,
Sure.
garbage.
I think most of her corruption is kind of tied into the Hillary Clinton Foundation, right? Like they had this like charitable organization that's supposed to do this philanthropic stuff or whatever, and it's really just this outlet for her and her people to acquire wealth, like give jobs to people who are like her friends or whatever, and to like influence peddle. And so maybe I don't have the exact quid pro quo in front of me, but
Yeah, we can talk again.
from what I can see, it doesn't look good. And by the way, a lot of these a lot of like these like very centrist people will kind of laugh at like a person like me saying like Hillary Clinton feels corrupt, bro, right? Type of thing. Like,
Yeah, you
oh,
can
get
do
your
the vibes
facts
of
straight
it.
and all
Listen,
this kind of
I
stuff.
don't have a problem with you doing
Now,
the vibes of it, but it just if it's
well,
informing your decision, I'm like,
well,
that's the only thing.
I
But we
think
can talk about it.
vibes actually matter quite a bit. Really, really quickly, when ProPublica did an expose on Clarence Thomas's relationship with his wealthy benefactor that
Yeah.
was paying for like his trailer and his like son's college and buying his mom's house and all this kinds of stuff. I think you and I looked at that and said, and it was also
Suspicious, but not
stated in
dispositive, I would
those
say.
reports that this exactly, but that guy did have business before the court and was indirectly affected by certain rulings that had been before the court. Now, in my opinion, I don't think Clarence Thomas would have ruled differently had that guy been his friend or not. But him having to happen to be his friend, benefit from him, and then him benefiting Clarence, especially in wake of some very interesting comments that Clarence Thomas made about the wages of Supreme Court judges and stuff like that. Like, even if there isn't an exact quid pro quo, there are certain things where it's like, it just fucking looks bad. Even if there's nothing there or whatever, it just fucking looks bad. And like, I don't want to vote, or I don't want to have to vote for someone who is taking $250,000, what I would call bribes, from like Wells Fargo and banks that just tanked the economy not too long ago for these private fucking dinner conversations. I don't think it's not a good vibe. It's not a good vibe. And people can scoff and laugh at that, but that's the truth. It's not a good vibe.
Well, we should talk about that in the Great Recession too at some point. But I appreciate you coming on and giving your view, and thank you for your time.
100%. Thank you.
Later, brother.
Love it. Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Interesting. All right, we have Gauntlet and stream disagreements. Hey, what up, Gauntlet?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you say something?
Hello. Hello. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we got you. How you doing?
Okay. Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
Okay. All good. I think there's a delay.
There is a delay,
Oh,
so
okay.
we just have to be a little bit we have to deal with it. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I'll try and keep that in mind. Okay. I want to talk about the DSA stuff, which I know it's a loop at this point, but as well.
I'm here for it.
Do you think? Okay. I want to clarify terms, because I don't know if this is done on purpose or accidental. I think it's just people getting caught up. Do you think in the Democratic tent versus an ally is the same thing?
I hear them being used interchangeably, and so I treat them the same. But if someone wants to clarify that they're using them differently, I'm happy to, take that clarification. I don't have like a particular strong view on what these terms mean or ought to mean. I'm like very open to having other people tell me what they mean with the term. But I think that those terms, if you were to ask me like what I think generally they mean, I would say there's different connotations for both. Ally, I think, connotes like an allegiance, right? And a stronger bond than in the tent implies a kind of almost grudging acceptance. That's what I think is the normal connotative difference. But I don't have strong views on what words like ought to mean, except when there's like a highly technical thing at issue.
Okay, I think people would distinguish between these two, and I think they have been, and I think generally we can, but I think you want to be very particular with your language, which is fair. I would actually say that your definition of ally and in the tent are opposite of what I would say they are. Like, I would say if you're in the Democratic tent, that means you're like part of the party. Versus an ally is just someone that you sort of align yourself with, maybe like for a time, but otherwise they're not like part of the party. So like, would you call like Nick Fuentes an ally right now in terms of defeating Trump?
It depends what you mean by ally.
Okay, like I said, I'll define it this way, and if you want to work on the definition, we can. But this is how I'm using ally and in the Democratic tent. When I say ally, I mean someone who we're willing to work with on something, at least temporarily, but we understand explicitly that they are not. Okay.
Sorry for interrupting.
And then in the Democratic tent is like somebody who we consider. You're good. You're good. And then somebody in the Democratic tent is someone that we consider to be like part of the party, like that we would use resources on, that we would like support in like an election. Okay.
Then Nick Fuentes is an ally and not in the tent.
Nick Fuentes is an ally, but you wouldn't put him
on your definitions that you provided here.
What about? Okay, are these acceptable definitions or?
What do you mean by acceptable definitions?
Do you think like this clarification is fair and like, or like, do you think I'm using these words like accurately?
That's what I don't understand. Like, so you like, is it from the dictionary? Like, when people ask if it's like a correct definition, it just seems like there's. Are you appealing to common usage?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, common usage.
I don't have a reason to believe that you're doing that unless you're quoting from Merriam-Webster or something.
Okay, then how would you use these terms?
I would use those terms if you're asking me based on their ordinary usage on like from major dictionaries, but if pressed, I think ally comes from this term allegiance, or I don't know if that's true etymologically, but I think ally to mean someone who has a common cause and with whom you are in an allegiance with towards that end. It's a very general, broad sense. So I think of ally to be with respect to an object or aim or goal. So a goal of mutual defense in the case of international allies, right? By the way, there's more specific international technical legal terms, right, for allyship too. But in general, I just think like an ally is someone with whom you are making common cause for a given end.
Okay. Do you think that Thomas Massey is an ally when he worked with Ro Khanna on the Epstein bill?
Yeah, with respect to the bill, 100%.
Okay.
Go sponsor.
Do you think people were confused about whether Massey was a Democrat or whether Ro Khanna was a Republican?
No.
Because of that allyship?
No.
Okay.
And by Democrat, being a Democrat or Republican, you just mean registering.
Wait,
just real quick, sorry for the delay. When you say we're confused about them being Democrat or Republican, you just mean like what their party affiliation and registration was, right? That's what you meant?
I would probably throw in ideologically as well.
Okay. Then I also agree that ideologically, proximally to the Democratic, whatever, the average Democrat, people also didn't confuse on that.
Yeah, there's no confusion that Massey is like ideologically a Republican or Khanna is ideologically like a Democrat, right?
In terms of ideological proximity, if you're referencing some average or median, right, I would say no confusion there. But of course, the whole notion about what a Democrat is, it's kind of begging the question because that's like the whole thing, right? The whole thing is people are disputing what makes a Democrat in some sense, or at least. So we got to be careful not to have a circularity issue here. You understand? So with respect to some median standard, some archetypical Democrat, I would agree. No confusion.
Okay. Okay. So if we understand that there's a difference, okay, this is why I want to separate these two definitions, okay? At least for the purpose of this conversation, so that way I'm clear whenever I
Sure.
say these words and you're not confused by what I mean. When I say in the Democratic tent, I mean people who are are part of the party, right? Who we
In
would
what
support
sense?
in like an election, who we would maybe give financial support to.
Okay, that I understand.
What do you mean?
But okay, that I understand. But that would include someone like Mamdani and AOC. Fair.
Yes.
Okay. So someone you would and I think this is like a useful
okay.
metric as well. I don't have a problem with this metric, but that's why I always ask, does this include Mamdani AOC? Because if we're talking about in the tent to mean who you minimally would support for an election, which is fine, like then yeah, it would include even people like Mamdani AOC on the farthest left of our party.
I want to put a pin in that for now because I'll talk about this distinction between Mamdani and AOC, or why we should or shouldn't support them in an election. But I just want to make sure we have the terms clarified, so that way when I say a term, you know what I mean by it, and we don't have to go.
Yeah, so let me repeat it back to you.
So clarify.
So by ally, can I repeat it back and see if I'm getting it right? So I understand Democratic tent to be someone with whom we are willing to support either financially or in their election respective contests. I understand ally to be more or less equivalent to what I said, which is someone with whom you can have a more limited goal, but it doesn't extend beyond the goal necessarily.
Yes, and the most important distinction between those two is that an ally you wouldn't necessarily consider as part of the Democratic Party, which is why you could call Massey an ally, but you wouldn't say he's in the Democratic tent.
Yeah, on your definitions, that would be true.
Yes. Okay. Now, in terms of supporting like AOC or Mamdani, I don't know if this is a worthwhile fight. I don't know if I would consider AOC DSA anymore. I don't. They didn't. I'm pretty sure they denounced her after she voted on aid to Israel with the Iron Dome, I think. Or I know they denounced her for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not really assessing whether she's DSA or not. I'm just assessing whether she's
probably.
Just pause real quick. Sorry for the delay. I'm not assessing whether she's a DSA member or not. I'm assessing whether she's in the tent. Your term.
She is. I would consider her in the tent.
Okay.
I would distinguish though in that I would include Mamdani as an ally, but not in the tent.
So you'd be unwilling to support Mamdani in an election against a Republican, let's say, Curtis Sliwa.
Would I support Mamdani in an election
versus a Republican like Curtis Sliwa?
I in a general election, yes, I would. But let me just make something clear. The only reason I would support Mamdani in an election with Sliwa, although Sliwa seemed fine. He didn't seem brain broken. He almost seemed like a never Trumper. So I don't actually know. But
you're unsure. So that's what I'm saying. You're unsure if you would support Mamdani or Curtis Sliwa for mayor in New York. You're unsure.
Okay, my perception of Curtis Sliwa is that he was a never Trumper. Is that an accurate perception, or is that an inaccurate perception?
I mean, I think he's more Trump critical. I don't know if it's fair to characterize him as a never Trumper. I'm not sure if he voted for Trump, but he is a Republican in many other respects. Make him Marco Rubio.
Okay.
Or I don't know, like.
Okay, obviously I wouldn't support Marco Rubio, but I'm getting. I'm just the only reason I'm just clarifying on if it's a never Trumper, I might support the never Trumper. That's all I'm saying.
But against average Republican, this is what's so interesting, right? Because like now in the tent means willingness to vote in an election, but obviously elections, there are multiple people usually in these contests, and so whether you're in the tent might turn on who your opposition is on this view, right?
Sorry, say that again. You cut out a little.
Okay, my bad. So let me just repeat it. So on this notion of in the tent, if whether you're in the tent turns on who the opposition is, it sounds like the qualities about one's self as a candidate. It might be that the same candidate is either in or not in the tent, depending on who their opposition is. So, for example, Mamdani would be in the tent vis-a-vis Marco Rubio. He maybe wouldn't be as against a never Trumper, on your view. So he's both in and out of the tent, just depending on who he's up against.
No. Sorry, sorry. This is what I was trying to get to, and I think we got. I brought us down the whole never Trumper thing. I would always consider Mamdani an ally, but I wouldn't consider him in the tent.
Wait, so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Because he is DSA.
But there are some conditions in which you'd be willing to support him. Fair?
Yes, as an ally.
And against an average Republican, you would be willing to support him in an election.
Yes, because
but that's your definition of in the tent, then, right? So he is in the tent
right now.
But then he is in the tent. You gave a definition for in the tent, and he fulfills it.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to clarify a little bit more.
Wait, are you changing what you mean by in the tent?
Or I can go back and revise
it.
Yeah,
we can revise it.
I'm okay. So let me explain the thought process, and then if we need to revise with the definitions, then we can. My thought process is that very clearly, Trump and MAGA are the greatest threat in the country right now. They're very clearly authoritarian. They have massive amounts of political power, and they are destroying the country right now, right? So because of that, even though I think Mamdani is only an ally, and I think the DSA is also an issue, an authoritarian issue, I would still support Mamdani because, in a general specifically, because even if I were to give him power, and he's only an ally in this moment, he doesn't have the political power to do anything if he were to be on the worst.
Yeah, but how is this related to how you use the term? Is all of this kind of I understand this normative outlook, and I agree with some of it, but how does this inform how you're using the definition of in the tent? Whether you believe that or not, that's consistent with your definition either way. So why is that disposition changing how you're viewing the term? I don't get that. I just want to know what you mean by in the tent.
I don't know if I define it.
Yeah. Here are the problems. I'll just give you some of the problems. If you're defining in the tent to be relative to who the opposition is, it kind of seems weird to most people that someone is both in and out of the tent depending on who their opposition is. It seems like in the tent is meant to denote some minimum threshold of acceptability or something. And maybe there's a way in which you can thread that needle, but it would seem weird to be okay, Mamdani is in the tent if he's up against a Trumper, but he's out of the tent when he's up against I don't know, normal Republican. It just seems to be an anomalous way of how people would understand you if you're talking. That's the issue I think you're running into.
I just maybe these aren't perfect definitions or perfect words that I'm using, but maybe I shouldn't include vote for as being in the tent. Maybe you vote for.
Did you understand my frustration? Because
explicit understand.
I think you're getting the window into it.
Yeah. Yes. But I'm saying the maybe I shouldn't include vote for. At least vote for in the general election, because I think in any election that is like a primary.
Okay, but now we have a bigger problem. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I don't know why you would do anything.
Yeah. But then we have an issue, which is people will say, kick them out of the tent. But we'll vote for them in general if they win the primary. And that also seems anomalous. If your definition of in the tent is specifically clued into primary elections, now it seems like the normative weight of the words that are connoted, kick them out of the tent. Oh, no, I just meant for the primary. But they're still in the tent for the general. Do you understand that? That seems anomalous. People are what? Okay, I guess we don't have a problem with you taking a view in the primary. It's the general that matters. That's what you'll run into if the definition is clued into primary.
Let's say there's a third party. Okay. Let's say there's a third party candidate for the next election, and let's say it's between Trump, and and some other Dem, right? Who's, let's say this Dem is pulling at like 10%, okay? Like they're doing horrible.
Yeah.
And there's a third party, and it's Adam Kinzinger or Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Right? In that scenario, you would probably urge most Dems to vote for Adam Kinzinger, right?
Yeah, that's right. The Democrat is non-viable.
You also
and
understand that
and
Adam
the
Kinzinger is
sorry,
not
sorry,
in
the light
10,
sucks.
right?
Yeah, so it depends what you mean by in the 10. That's the whole issue that you're having. But like, if in that situation, the non-MAGA Republican is viable, and the MAGA Republican is viable, and the Democrat is non-viable. So yeah, in that situation, I would be in support of the viable non-MAGA Republican. Yeah, but you said you would understand that he's not in the 10. It's just reintroducing the issue. I would understand it if you explain what in the 10 is.
I think fuck.
Yeah, you see my frustration.
I think this is like no, I don't. I think it's like, I think intuitively people get what I'm saying, but
Well, then why can't you say it?
I don't think you.
You think I'm being bad faith right now? I mean, like, if you think that people understand it, just say what you mean.
I don't think you're being bad faith. I'm not trying to come here to accuse you. I think you're very particular, and that's fair, but it can be frustrating a little bit.
There are ways you could look. I can offer you some ways that you could do it. Ideological proximity to some archetype. I understand that. You could say willingness to vote. I understand that. Minimum beliefs in liberalism. Right. I understand that. Any one of those concepts, I understand it. You just got to pick something. But unless you communicate it to me, I don't understand.
Okay, like, it's just like this idea of like in the tent or out of the tent or ally or non-ally. I think like it becomes way more murky when we're talking about like a general election, when we're trying to get rid of like the horrible authoritarians that are in power right now.
Yeah, but the people are invoking the term to crucify me. They're saying,
okay,
what, you really think that Hassan's in the tent? So like, yeah, if you want to talk about things that are like more concrete and like actual elections and stuff and like things to do, I want to talk about that. But yeah, I'm going to be non-responsive to terms that I don't know how the person's using. You get me?
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that like most people view like DSA and Democrats as not the same, but like they're kind of in the same camp? Do you think that like generally like the average voter would view this that way?
Do I think that most people would think that DSA are part of the Democratic camp? Is that your question?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be part of a Democratic camp? Sounds like you're just repeating in the tent with different words.
Yeah. I get what I'm saying. Sorry. Like, sorry, here's maybe this is a refining that is useful. When somebody sees a DSA person and they're running like on the Democratic ticket, they have a lot of support from Dems. Do you think that makes people, especially like a general voter, do you think that makes them think that Democrats are like ideologically like similar to DSA?
I don't know. That's like an empirical question. I don't know what most people would respond to that. I can give you my suspicion, but I don't really know. I can tell you that I think people would think.
Suspicion? My
suspicion is that people would think that whatever ideology this candidate is professing is at a bare minimum like tolerated by whatever democratic powers that be. But again, and here by tolerated I mean just minimally to receive democratic support or something like that.
I would say that most people would probably think that DSA and Democrats are like like the perception is that the DSA and the Democrats are fairly closely intertwined ideologically.
I don't know that to be true. I mean, otherwise you say that, and I'm happy to accept that, but I don't know that to be true. But okay.
I feel like otherwise you wouldn't have. Apparently, according to like a CNN poll recently, about a third of Democrats identify as democratic socialists. And then on top of that, you have Republicans using the DSA as an attack vector against the Democrats. If they didn't believe that these two could be like sort of amalgamated into the same thing, then I don't think they would use that
Yeah, I think there's
vector.
an unhappy conclusion here, which is like democratic socialists are a very big part of Democrats on your own view, based on that polling.
Okay.
You said like almost a third, maybe?
Wait. Yes. According to this CNN poll.
Yeah, it's like a big chunk of Democrats. That's like tens of millions of people.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then I guess I don't. I guess this is an unfalsifiable claim of like whether people believe that.
Now you're gonna be like, what is a true democratic socialist? Whether they're actually socialists, right? By which we mean, well, what does it mean to be an actual socialist?
I don't think I'll go down that road. I think you could probably say that there's probably a decent chunk of those people that probably don't understand what socialism is. That's probably a decent chunk because the term has been bastardized by.
When you say bastardized, you just mean used in a way that you don't think is like the real definition, right? The real definition.
Is there like, there's probably some like specific core tenet of socialism that is like ontologically part of the idea of socialism, right? So
ontologically,
probably abolition of capital, right?
I don't know what you mean. Like, there's part of the term that's ontologically any given way. I don't really. Do words have an ontology?
Sorry, like inherent to the ideology. Maybe is that a better?
Inherent to which ideology? Socialism? There's a core concept. Depends what you mean by socialism.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends what you mean by socialism.
Yeah, there's a core. I would probably say. Okay, this feels like pedantry, but like I feel like most people would accept that socialism includes the abolition of capital, right?
Yeah, so you mean the usage. Most people understand socialism to include some sort of worker-owned means of production, right? I think they would say abolishment of private capital, not all capital.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, this is going down a rabbit hole that.
Yeah, I don't know why we're going here.
Don't think it's important.
I'm just. By the way, people will say that people will say that like I get into these like weird minutia places. I'm just following you where you want to go. I just hope you know that. I'm not trying to like drive this anywhere. Oh, I'm trying to help out.
Well. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Here's my question: is what like in terms of like a primary? Why would we ever support a DSA candidate?
If they're better than the alternative, which sometimes they are.
When have they been better than the alternative?
Well, okay, so by DSA member, you mean...
I think if we look at the DSA...
So Mamdani was better than Cuomo.
Okay. Okay. But... Okay, Mamdani is better than Cuomo. Look, I will say that was a abysmal. Like, there are issues that with the Democrats running stupid fucking candidates like Cuomo. I don't know why that was the only choice in New York.
Okay, but whether you might be frustrated with the choice, but I'm telling you when I'll support a DSA candidate is when I think the DSA candidate is better than the non-DSA aligned or DSA supported or DSA favored candidate. I'll support the one who I think is better.
Okay. That's a hard example because Cuomo had like, didn't he? Was it sexual assault allegations or was it just sexual like?
There was sexual advancements, petting, touching. I don't think penetrative like rape accusations, but yeah, sexual harassment.
Okay.
There was a whole like Letitia James released a report on it. There were a bunch of people. But I don't know why this matters. I'm just like, and if I think that there's some other factor that makes them better, then they're better. I'm telling you when I'll support the DSA candidate. Or DSA aligned, DSA endorsed, DSA member candidate. Whichever of those you want to say. If someone says, didn't Cuomo run as an independent, that was after the primary. Which he lost.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking this question is because, like, do we generally agree that DSA hates the Democrats and wants to, like, destroy the party? Or do we disagree with that?
DSA meaning every DSA member, or the majority members, or the leadership?
I would probably say, I guess the leadership.
I think the leadership probably hates the Democratic leadership in the party. Whether Democrats wholly, I think probably not. I think many Democrats are their constituents. But the Democratic leaders and the Democratic members who are not their preferred candidates, I think they probably dislike them significantly.
Okay. Why
Where
do
are we,
wanna
where are we
support,
going? Where are we going with
like
this?
a
I don't understand.
small party? I don't know why we want to work collaboratively with people who, like, hate the Democrats.
Who says I want to work collaboratively with the leadership of the DSA?
Or even influencers or potentially voters. Like these types of people. I don't know why we want to work collaboratively with these people.
If it suits us.
Like, but to, like, bolster their ranks within, I don't know, sort of.
Would you work with Republicans to pass important legislation, even though they want to destroy your party?
Yes, obviously.
So if it suits us, to the extent that it suits us.
I feel like I feel like there's, like, a greater intertwinement between, like when Thomas. Okay, sorry, I'll go back to this example. When Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna were working on the Epstein bill, like, there's no confusion of where those two stand in terms of, like, parties and, like, who they're, in terms
whether
of
they're
party,
in the tent,
right?
Are we going to do this again?
DSA and Dems, no. Between Ro Khanna and Massey, there's no confusion where these two stand party wise, right?
By
There's no
party wise, do you
confusion.
mean in the tent, or do you
Like,
mean
or like-
registration,
or-
do you mean ideological proximity to some archetype? What do you mean?
We'll
by
say
that?
We'll say
Yes,
we'll say
there's-
registration, and we can say ideological proximity to a conservative or MAGA versus, like, a democratic
Yes.
archetype.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, there's no confusion.
Okay, and you couldn't attribute, like, he wants to trans all the kids to Massey, correct?
You couldn't attribute, meaning it's not
I mean,
reasonable to
I
attribute.
would say if you're, yeah, you couldn't.
But you mean it's
Yeah,
like
it's not
it's not reasonable
reasonable
to attribute that he wants trans kids?
Although
Yeah, correct. I think it's unreasonable to say that Ro Khanna wants to trans all
Well,
kids.
no, actually, I don't know if I. Okay,
You think it's reasonable to attribute that to him?
okay, hold up. No. That's why I was trying to change in the middle. But
Okay.
the thing, obviously, it's not reasonable to say that Ro Khanna wants to trans all the kids. But as an attack vector, it's, like, more reasonable, and it works with more people for Republicans to attack Ro Khanna and say he wants to trans all the kids versus Thomas Massey. They couldn't do that same line of attack, could they?
When you say it's more reasonable, do you mean it's more likely to occur? I don't think it's reasonable to accuse Ro Khanna of that in the same way I don't think it's reasonable to accuse Massey of it.
Sorry.
I think it's unreasonable to accuse both of them.
Let me be very
of
specific in my words. Yes, obviously, it's in a sane world. It's unreasonable to basically accuse anybody of this.
Okay. So then, what are you asking?
Especially any elected politician.
You're asking what's more likely? Who's more
terms
likely
of,
to receive them?
No. In terms of, like, an attack ad, if you were attacking these two politicians, right, and you, like, let's say we put out an attack ad, and we put out the same attack ad, do you think it would have the same effect on Ro Khanna that it would have on Massey?
I have no fucking clue.
If the thing was,
That's a very tough empirical question. That
Really?
I don't know how you can expect me to answer that. You're asking me what the effect would be of a trans attack ad on Ro Khanna versus a trans attack ad on Thomas Massey. I have no idea. Do you have some idea about that? What's the evidence that I would like? I have no idea. I can give you my intuition. I can give you what I think might happen. I have no fucking clue.
I feel like it's pretty obvious, like, in terms of, like, that crazy ad that was used against Kamala, like, Donald Trump cares about you and she cares about they them, right? That was an effective attack ad against Kamala, correct?
There's some it's not the most effective, but there are some analysts who say it was an effective attack ad. but you're doing a comparative.
I'm not saying it's the.
And it's
I'm
not
not saying it's the most effective. I'm
It's
just saying
Massey,
it
and
was an
Massey.
effective attack ad, correct?
Yeah, I think that my intuition is that it was effective. I think it's overstated based on what I've seen, but analysts have said it's effective. I will grant that it was effective.
Okay. Do you think that type of attack ad, if it was a race between Massey and Kana,
I have no idea.
Rokana, or let's not say it's between them because it muddies the waters. You don't think that attack ad would be more effective against Rokana than it would be against Massey?
No. I can give you my suspicion.
I'm so confused. No, I don't think this is like a I don't know moment. Rokana is obviously in support of like trans issues and like
Agreed.
things around healthcare and stuff like that. Thomas Massey is obviously against these things, correct?
I don't know, but I suspect he is because he's a Republican. I think so. I'll grant that he is against it. Yeah.
If Rokana is obviously for like, you know, rights for trans people and Massey is against those rights, then the attack ad would probably be more effective against Rokana
that's not
than
intuitive
Massey,
to me.
who is explicitly against these things.
That's
correct?
not intuitive to me. I don't know that.
That's not?
It's an empirical issue. I don't.
So can you just attack anybody for anything, even though they've like?
I mean, my suspicion is like the logic of it is, well, because there's more of like a basis to accuse him of it because he believes in basic like trans rights, or something. But I don't know about the effectiveness of it. I mean, maybe maybe the people who are Republican are like more likely to be persuaded by, I don't know, like these kind of very flamboyant accusations. Maybe they're different populations. Maybe it doesn't really move the needle on the left and the independents kind of bought in. I have no fucking idea about the actual truth. I mean, yeah, Rokana's in California. Maybe this will land differently in Kentucky where they would actually be moved more by it, different constituencies. I have no confidence on this. There's a bunch of factors that would probably go into like whether or not an attack ad against Massey. I mean, Massey was the subject of a bunch of crazy attack ads by fellow Republicans in the primary challenge, some of which were totally baseless, and they were effective.
But were these attack ads just anything?
Yeah,
or were they
maybe there's some loose connection to shit
around things that you could attach to?
I don't know. Why is this? Why is it crazy that I don't have a strong intuition here? I don't fucking know.
Because I feel like it's obvious that when you
good argument.
Like,
it's
hold,
obvious.
Like,
oh, great. Yeah, it's obvious.
Sorry, oh my god. When you support like when you hold certain like positions around like tangentially even things that like trans issues or you know or border stuff or like you hold these like sort of like it at least we can separate MAGA and like Dems kind of like into holding certain ideological positions. So like an attack ad for like for like Rokana saying like he wants to kill your babies because he supports abortion is probably going to hit harder against him than saying like I don't even.
That's what I'm wondering. What
against a Republican.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what the basis of that is? That like connections, like topic connections to rights issues or to areas like that, intuitively land harder, or sorry, statistically land harder for the candidate who has a stronger position on the rights issue than on the crazy extrapolation than the person who generally is against the rights issue. I don't have that intuition. Maybe you do. I'm sorry. Is it necessary for us to continue? What if
yes,
I grant it? What if
because
okay, I don't know. I'm telling you my belief. Maybe you can convince me with some data or some argument. I don't have that.
Okay, I'm not saying okay. The they them ad commonly cares about you, they them and not you.
Yeah, I grant that was probably effective.
I'm not going to say that this was the most. Yeah, I'm not going to say that it's the most effective, but it was effective somewhat.
Yeah, they're different things.
And it's not like a random attack.
It's because I just want to be clear. granting that it's an effective ad in the Kamala case doesn't necessitate that it would be more effective in the Ro Khanna versus Thomas Massie case. They're not the same thing. One is, first of all, comparative. Two, one of them is a race in California. There's a race in Kentucky. They're two completely different people in two completely different contexts. So how can I extrapolate that? Well, it was effective with one person, that I know it would be more effective in one versus the other in two completely different races. I don't. That's not intuitive to me.
We're getting caught up on the
arguably,
on the
sorry. I
specifics
just
of
want to say
Khanna
one
being in
more
California and Massie being in Kentucky.
Okay, then then that's even more confusing for me. So where is the election? It's not going to really help my intuition, but fine. If you want to further specify, my intuition is that Kentucky is more apt to hear that.
I'm trying to further specify.
Who cares? Why don't we just assume that I say yes?
Let's just do the presidential election then.
Okay, yeah, I don't really have a strong norm there, but let's just say yes. Let's say, okay, fine. It probably will land more with Ro Khanna than Massie. Is this important?
I think it is. Do you think a trans attack ad against Donald Trump would be effective?
I don't know.
In that presidential race between Kamala and Donald Trump, do you think if Kamala put out an attack ad saying like Donald Trump cares about they, them, and not you, do you think that would convince people? Do you think that would?
My suspicion is that it wouldn't. That's my suspicion, but I don't know.
Yes, because Donald Trump doesn't tie himself to any sort of.
Can you let me explain,
trans
please?
Rights issues, correct?
So I agree that he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't have those trans rights beliefs or whatever. But I also think that his base is more apt to care about that shit in the first place. And so there are times in the past where Trump has brought trans people into his confidence, people like Caitlyn Jenner and others, and he's had he has a very gay candidate. He has he goes to the Village People songs and listens to all that shit, and he is arguably one of the most pro-trans Republicans we've seen. I know this is shocking to say because he's obviously very anti-trans. And so I don't know, if a bad faith ad trying to depress Republicans would be more effective than the Kamala ad. My suspicion is that maybe it would be more effective against Kamala and then Ro Khanna respectively. I just don't have a strong intuitive feeling. Why is this so necessary?
I think it's necessary because obviously, in a good faith engagement with the issues, right? You can't attribute to when Trump goes up there, every fucking speech he does, and he says they want open borders, they want to trans all the kids, they want to do all this stuff. Okay, obviously in a good faith engagement with people who were actually informed, nobody would think that these things can be attributed to the Democratic Party, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But we don't live in a good faith world where people are, infinitely informed on the issues. So what you can do is you can take things that you support in a more specific sense or a more measured sense, and you could attribute the crazy bad things to them, correct? Which is what Trump does, correct?
Yeah. So yeah. Wait. I just want to. Are you just saying that it's a vulnerability for Democrats? That's different than saying an ad against both candidates would or would not be equally effective. I mean, I'll grant to you that these are vulnerabilities for Democrats for bad faith, extrapolations from Republicans. If that's all you're saying, yeah, it could be Ro Khanna needs to be on guard for bad faith attacks. There's some vulnerability. The way you formulated it as another ad against a Republican versus an ad against a Democrat on that issue, I don't have a strong intuition about that, but I'm happy to concede that there are good faith positions that people take that make you vulnerable for bad faith attack. Yeah, sure.
Okay. If that's the case, then why open ourselves up to more bad faith attacks when we sort of include DSA in the sense that people would think they're more included in the Democratic Party based off of a lot of support from Democratic voters and from people and that the DSA runs on the Democratic ticket.
The issue is it's presented itself over and over, right? So you say include them? By include them, do you mean support them sometimes?
I mean, when I say include them, I mean that the DSA, it can be conflated with the Democratic Party because there's a lot of support from Democrats in terms of voting and in terms of the fact that they run on the Democratic ticket.
So include them means descriptively that some are having success and are being supported, like Mamdani, AOC, like Chevalier. Is that what you mean by included? Is the descriptive reality that they're having some success? Or do you mean like
they're having some success?
What do you mean by include them? Then? Just say just plainly.
Seems to be conflated.
Yes. Why would we include them?
I'm trying to
and I'm
say
asking,
that
like, what do you mean by that?
DSA, there seems to be some conflation. I'm trying to say that there seems to be some conflation between the DSA and the Democrats in terms of like they like maybe like I think most people would probably say that think of DSA as just slightly further or maybe far more further left Democrats.
If you say so, okay.
Is that an unfair characterization?
I don't strongly reject it. I don't know what most people think about.
I
don't know what most people think about DSA in virtue of, or like in comparison to the Democrats. I don't have access to that polling data. I'll accept it. I don't have a reason to reject it. A lot of these are like empirical claims about
like,
how
I don't know
people's
why
attitudes are. I don't know those off the top of my head.
Okay, but if we're okay, I mean, if okay, I mean,
like,
there seems to be some conflation. If
How do you know what to do with that? Why would we
I'm talking about a conflation between the DSA and the Democratic Party.
Okay, I don't control what people conflate. So there must be something that you're asking me to reconsider doing.
Okay, but that's important, right? That's important, right? Is that this conflation between the Democratic Party and the DSA exists, right? That's an important perception that exists in America, correct?
I don't know that it's important.
Well, apparently a third of people who are in the Democratic Party identify as Democratic Socialists. So, if that's the case, I would say that's a pretty important conflation between the two.
Hey, can you hear me? Testing?
Yep, hello?
You're saying overall, because there's 30% of people identifying as Democratic Socialists, that the conflation is important. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm sorry. This is frustrating. You're saying because there's this percentage of people...
The conflation is important because at least the perception... The conflation is important because at least the perception that Democrats and DSA are more closely aligned than they probably actually are. But this leads to like voting outcomes.
I understand a conflation to be someone who like misattribute Democrats as something, or like that you're conflating, that is, you're treating as equal two things that should not be, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying that's important, and it's important because it shouldn't be that way.
Yes.
Okay. And it shouldn't be that way because
if we're conflated, or if Democrats are conflated to be with the DSA, to be like sort of the same thing as the DSA, then it not only does it open us up to unfair like attacks from MAGA, right? It opens us up to legitimate attacks from MAGA. So for things like open borders, Chevalier wants open borders. Defund the police. Chevalier and I think other candidates want to defund the police. Communist attacks. The DSA platform is explicitly socialist / communist, whatever. Like it opens us up. This conflation is important because it opens us up to more illegitimate attacks and even legitimate attacks.
Okay, so let's say that I agree with you. There is this conflation. I'm not convinced of that, frankly. Haven't seen polling data that suggests that people like misinterpret the Democrats as DSA. I think that people understand that there's a distinction between those two things when they're talking, and so I'm not convinced that there is a conflation. If anything, I think what you're trying to get around without saying it is you're trying to reintroduce the in the tent concept without exactly saying it, by saying that people are misattributing that they're part of the tent as opposed to conflating DSA and Democrats. I've never heard of one person to say that Democrats, they actually genuinely confuse the DSA with the Democrats, except like when I guess there's a slip of the tongue or something. I think what most people are talking about is that the DSA are accepted and more becoming like important in the Democrats, and that's different than conflating them. On your view, I think that you're trying to reintroduce but let's just say I accept that there is a conflation, and let's say that I accept that the conflation opens us up to vulnerabilities in both unfair and fair attacks. Then what? So what?
You just said that people think that the DSA is becoming more and more a part of the Democrats. What do you mean by that?
That they're becoming more influential.
Okay. And so, like, if okay. I feel like your language there sort of shows that, like, you said become more and more part of the Democrats. I feel like your language there shows that you think that, like, DSA is a part of the Democrats, and they're like this subsection of Democrats that are getting more and more leverage within the party.
No, I'm telling you what I hear people say, and that it's not specifically a conflation in understanding Democrats are the DSA, but that the DSA are becoming more influential. And that's not representing my view. I'm just saying one issue I think that you're running into is you're trying to say that it's problematic to have them in the tent in other words. And one way to do that is say, like, people are conflating the DSA and the Democrats, but are they? Or are they just thinking that the DSA is more like involved in the Democratic Party, or is tolerated in the Democratic Party, or is becoming more involved in leadership of the Democratic Party? That's what I understand. That's all I said. I wasn't giving my view on the DSA taking over.
If they're involved in the leadership of the Democratic Party, does that mean they're not in the Democratic Party if they're involved in the leadership? Because if they're not part of the Democratic Party, how are they involved in the leadership?
Yeah, so when I say like involved in the Democratic Party and influential in the Democratic Party, I'm cashing that out in terms of power, in terms of their ability to and electoral results, their ability to affect change. That's how I'm cashing it out. And by Democratic Party, I really just mean like the relevant samples where Democrats make up constituencies, Congress, mayoralties, state Democratic places. So that's in the sense in which I'm saying they're becoming more involved, and that their influence is being felt in government and in the party structures. I'm not asserting that. I'm saying that that's the sense in which I'm using it to describe the conversations I've been seeing and how they differ from your contention, which is that people are conflating Democrats and DSA. What I mean to say is something a little bit more specific. Not that they're literally confusing Democrats with DSA, but considering the DSA's influence on Democrats and seeing that as problematic, not as like oh, I thought I was voting for the DSA. The Democrats, aren't they the same thing? I don't think that's what's going on.
Okay. Okay. Going back to the point that I was trying to make is if we're opening ourselves up to more illegitimate and then also legitimate attacks, why are we becoming so intertwined with these people?
Okay, so that's the question. Why are we becoming so intertwined? Are you asking for a descriptive account? Or are you asking normatively, why are we doing X when we shouldn't be? What are you asking? Descriptively, why is it happening?
I'm saying
you're saying it's a bad idea to do X, right?
Sure, descriptively.
Oh, descriptively, it's because they're winning primaries. It's because they're more attractive to Democratic voters in really blue districts. That's where, I mean, it's overstated, to be honest. I think the moderates are also being very successful, but the reason they're winning is because they're more popular than the alternatives. I think that's obvious.
I just don't know. Like, what I feel like when we look at like the DSA track record, like these weren't like even when they win, I feel like these aren't like good things to support or
Okay,
like good
that's
candidates
different.
to
That's
support.
so now that is asking normatively, should we support them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when we look at the DSA track record, right, we get Graham Plattner, we get Tulsi Gabbard, we get Fetterman, we get Cinema, like, and then like we have people like, well, I'll just focus on the politicians for now.
Yeah. So like, do you want my response?
Yeah.
Sometimes the DSA candidate should be supported in a primary. Sometimes they shouldn't.
Why should they ever be supported
Because sometimes it's the better alternative.
in what way?
In policy, in electability, in fight.
In sorry, what was the last one?
In fighting, being willing to fight.
Okay.
Sometimes,
I
not
don't-
always.
I just I just I just you say all this, but when we look at the track record for the DSA, it seems like none of these things ever pan out very well for the Democrats.
I don't agree.
Okay. Like why? I gave you these examples, these pretty big examples why it doesn't sort of pan out well for the Democrats. But like,
Yeah, so
why
I-
would we
so-
support candidates from a
So I didn't know that Kirsten Sinema
group
was
that has a track record of putting out bad candidates?
So I didn't know that Kirsten Sinema was endorsed by the DSA.
Cinema wasn't. Sorry, let me clarify. Cinema wasn't a DSA. She was a Green Party member, and she was very explicitly a socialist. She called herself a Protest-socialist.
Okay, so now we have a huge issue. So are you talking about the DSA or talking about people who self-identify as socialists?
It can be either.
Is it either, or could it be either?
If you want to toss, if you want, it
What
can
do
be
you
either.
mean,
If you want to toss out
bitch?
Cinema, we can.
I'm
toss
sorry,
out
I'm losing my
Cinema. I
temper.
would
What
just
do you?
include
I'm
her.
asking what you mean. You're the one doing this, so tell me what you mean.
Because I don't think socialists should be. I don't think socialists should be included within
I
the
didn't
Democratic
ask that. I'm
Party.
asking what the fuck
and
you're
you're
asking
gonna-
me. It's semantic. You need to tell me what you mean. What's the set here? Is the set including only DSA endorsed? Does it include Brad Lander? Does it include socialists self-identified? Or does it include the most left-wing option? Or where populists of the left tend to congregate? You need to tell me what your set includes.
I would say that I would if we can expand it, or I was just.
What do
can
you
expand it if you
mean?
want,
What do you
okay?
mean? Tell me
We
what
don't
you
have
mean.
to.
I don't have any.
I would
you're
include
asking-
populists. I would include but populists. I don't think populists are helpful to the Democrats in general, and I would include socialists with populists. That's why I would include Cinema as part of this group of people that have put out like bad results. So Cinema was a bad result. Graham Plattner was a bad result. Tulsi Gabbard was a bad result. Fetterman was a bad result.
So who is the track record? So the track record is the candidates that have been approved by populists, socialists, and DSA. Fair?
Yep.
Okay. So on that view, I don't know that Kirsten Sinema was the populist favorite in the Arizona primary. I don't know what it was like in the Arizona primary. Do you, in terms of who the available candidates were that Sinema was running against? I didn't know that there was. Okay, so then I don't know why she's included, even on the view that you've just expressed. But let's say that she's included. You understand that she was like
Because she was
one
a
of the most
socialist?
moderate candidates, one of the most centrist candidates, and was a big like thorn in the shoe of fucking Biden because she was too centrist, right?
Yes, I'm aware. That
Okay.
is, yeah.
So I mean, my strong intuition is that this person, she's problematic because she's not left enough. Agreed?
Maybe down the line, but the perception of hold up, let me explain what I mean by that. Maybe down the line, maybe her views changed, maybe she was untruthful. But I mean, look at Fetterman, right? He was championed as
Agreed.
like
that's
super
a
progressive
yes.
dude,
That's a genuine
and now
example.
he's basically
Yes, that's a
becoming
genuine.
a fucking Republican.
Yes, but I never liked Fetterman. I would have supported Connor Lamb. I thought that Fetterman sucked, and they were wrong.
It
and
doesn't
they
matter if
and
you
they
like
apo-
Fetterman. It
I
doesn't
know,
matter
but
if you
I know,
like Fetterman.
but that's an example of when they should not have been listened to. That was the wrong choice.
Yeah, but if they keep putting out these big candidates that are bad, we can even leave some of them behind. Fetterman, Tulsi Gabbard, Graham Plattner. Like, why do we keep listening to these people?
So Tulsi Gabbard is definitely was a populist darling, but she comes from a conservative family. And again, you don't know the nature of the primary that got Tulsi Gabbard in power, right? Were you aware of that? So you can't really say that there was unless you know the facts here.
Bernie supported her.
You know that Bernie supported her in some things, sometime, right? But you don't know the nature of the decision that got
her. Endorsed her.
During the primary. Do you know?
Yes.
I don't. Okay.
Endorsed her.
I don't know. All right. The circumstances of all this need to be figured out. And okay, let's say that I grant it to you. That could all be true, and sometimes it's still preferable to go for the DSA candidate, even if the track record, each one of those cases. Now, I would put AOC as positive. I would put Mamdani as positive. I would put Bernie Sanders as positive. I think all these people are positive, had positive effect on the Biden administration. So there's positive cases as well. And even if you have a mixed track record, sometimes that just proves the point. Sometimes it's preferable to go with the whatever.
How is Bernie positive?
Bernie is positive. I think he had a positive effect on the Biden administration, and he's a good senator and he's a good guy. I think he has one of the most honorable voting records.
Is insert this idea. All Bernie has seemed to do for Democrats is insert this idea of our own version of electoral denialism. That's what it seems the biggest contribution Bernie has made to the Democratic Party.
That's not inconsistent with there sometimes being a preference for DSA or socialist or whatever candidate in primary. I don't agree with that. I think that's fucking reductive as shit.
What major legislation has Bernie supported?
I didn't say that he had.
Sorry,
I didn't say that. I didn't say. I didn't say that he had sponsored insanely good legislation that he championed. I didn't say that.
You said he was a good guy and he was good for Biden?
Yes. He influenced domestic
But I
policy.
think it's probably more important that he sort of influenced this idea of of election denialism.
Okay, I disagree with
left.
that. Okay, who cares? What are we talking about? I disagree with that. All that is consistent with that with DSA.
What, do you think that's not important?
I don't think that Bernie intentionally had election denialism inputted into the brains of dead-ender lefties. He endorsed Hillary. He endorsed Joe Biden. I think he's generally an honorable person, and I don't think that was his intention. That might have been the unfortunate
my election
results.
was stolen from me.
Why
he
is
says
this?
his election was stolen from him?
I wasn't aware of
What
the
does he mean
context.
by that?
Yeah, I didn't know that Bernie says his election was stolen from him. What was the context of that statement? I'm not aware of it. I'll look it up. Bernie says the election was stolen.
I can look it up.
Bernie says the election was stolen. Sanders spokeswoman on July 25th, no one stole the election. When did Bernie say this? One of the first articles from Politico, Sanders spokeswoman, no one stole the election, July 25th, 2016. Simona Sanders. Simone Sanders. Look, people are well within their rights to have passions and opinions. That's how we create change in the country. We need the passion. But let me be clear. No one stole this election. Team Sanders we did amazing work, but we lost. It's a really hard reality for someone. When did Bernie say that his election was stolen?
Okay, maybe I was wrong. I apologize. I still think the connotations around how Bernie talks about that and the fact that all of his supporters think that still is probably a mark on his record, but I mean...
Who asked? What is this relevant to what we're talking about?
Because if the DSA has a bad track record, as per the politicians I just offered you, I don't know why we listen to them.
When you say why we listen, when you say why we listen,
are AOC, who has moderated and been disowned by the DSA, and the second is Mamdani, who supports people who want to abolish the police, who don't support Ukraine, who don't support NATO.
I just told you why. Wait. You just say, like, I don't understand. When it's the case that the candidate is better in the primary, you support them. When it's the case that they're up against a Republican, you support them. That's when you support them. That's why you do it, is because you want better outcomes.
One, that never happens. That never happens.
What never happens?
All of these races are in deep fucking blue districts. If it's in like fucking Kentucky, then sure, as a matter of pragmatism, but not as a matter of like it like
are you conceding that even in deep
these guys should be?
Would you agree even in deep blue districts that it's preferable for the Democrat to win?
Yes.
Okay, so then we agree. Yes, support them in the general.
No, it's preferable for the Democrat to win, not the DSA candidate.
So I'll ask the question: would it be preferable for AOC to win versus her Republican challenger in Queens?
Would that ever happen?
I didn't ask if it would ever happen. I'm asking what's preferable. You cuck. Can you answer the question? I answer your fucking stupid questions about like trans shit. Can you just answer my question?
Damn. I'm saying that would never happen. Now,
what would never happen?
Okay,
I'm asking what your preference is, bitch. Yes, you are.
It is preferable. It is preferable that a Democrat would always win, but the only reason you're giving me this hypothetical is to expose some sort of like hypocrisy, which
that your statement is false. That your statement is false. That
it already exists on the DSA side.
Wait, no. The proposition that we shouldn't support these people is false on your own view. That we should categorically never support these people.
In a primary, we should never support these people.
Unless that candidate is preferable, right? If it's preferable, you go with the DSA candidate, right? You're saying it's never preferable?
At some crazy rate over like the Dem. If they're polling at some crazy rate,
that's all it would take for you
over the standard Dem. Sure, in this time right now.
Would you do that with Nick Fuentes? Would you do that with Nick Fuentes? If Nick Fuentes was running as a Democrat and he was polling higher than the establishment Democrat, would you vote for him in a primary?
Probably yes.
Probably yes. I take that to be a reductio. You would support Nick Fuentes as if he's polling higher than establishment Democrat in the general?
Actually, maybe not right now. We're too close to.
Yeah, so you treat them differently too.
Yeah.
So you do treat differently.
Well, the only reason I say that is because I think I would think generally most people are like against like Nazis. So because Nick Fuentes has no oh wait, were you
You're fighting the hypothetical. You're fighting the hypothetical.
I thought you said it was Nick Fuentes versus No.
Republican.
I
Fuentes versus
Nick
Republican.
Versus MAGA.
Yes. Fuentes versus Republican. He's in the Democratic primary.
Right now, I wouldn't vote for either. I don't know if I would vote for either.
You wouldn't vote for the establishment candidate over Nick Fuentes?
Well, everything's fucked.
You wouldn't vote for the establishment candidate over Nick Fuentes, even if Nick Fuentes was pulling higher?
The establishment MAGA candidate?
No, I'm doing Democrat.
The establishment MAGA candidate?
Democratic primary.
Oh, okay. I think the delay's fucking me. Wait, I'm so confused. You're saying that if it's Nick Fuentes versus the establishment Dem?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the establishment Dem, yeah.
Right. So this is why you're like confused why I'm asking this, right? You said all it would take for you to support the DSA candidate is strong polling data indicating that they're better situated against the Republican in the contest, right? You said that. That's all it would take.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be enough for Nick Fuentes if the same were true of Fuentes versus the establishment, right?
You're saying. Okay. I think. Okay, let me just explain this so I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if Nick Fuentes were polling higher than AOC or not AOC, but just establishment Dem, in a primary, and then that person in the primary were to go on to face a MAGA Republican, I would still support the Dem, even though Fuentes is going higher.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. right? And the opposite is true for the DSA candidate.
The opposite is true for the DSA candidate. No.
You just said it was. You said if the polling was better for the DSA candidate, that's all it would take for you to support them over the establishment candidate against a Republican.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
So that shows you.
The problem is with
do you want the conclusion from that?
The political power, the political sway of these movements. The problem is, the problem is the political sway of these people, right? Like, I think right now in America, unfortunately, Nick Fuentes could get enough support with his position if he were to get that whatever seat.
Yeah, you can explain it however you want.
As opposed to like a DSA member.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. But like, all I'm trying to say is like, you can explain however you want. But the truth is, you yourself are willing to quote work with. If by work with you mean support DSA people in a way that you wouldn't support Fuentes. And I'm sure if I gave you a MAGA in the Democratic primary, a MAGA Democrat, whatever that means, it would be the same thing. And so all I'm trying to say is you yourself treat these people better than a Fuentes type, than a MAGA type, than a Republican. And so what I do is not different.
No, sorry. This is why I was trying to distinguish. The reason I wouldn't vote for Fuentes is because I think like he would have political capital to use and do bad things with. Like if he were to gain that
whatever
seat.
the reason
I don't treat Fuentes as bad. No, because you said I treat DSA
in terms of your vote, in terms of your
I do not treat them as better.
In terms of your vote, you just demonstrated that. In terms of your support with your vote.
No, because no, hold up. If let's say that the country were split, okay, and the ideological like the ideological majorities in the country were like Nazis and like communists.
Mm-hmm.
I would not treat these like people the same. The reason I would prefer the DSA candidate in the hypothetical you gave is because they have less power to do the things that they want. But
okay,
with Nick Fuentes
that's all consistent with what I'm saying.
I think that
all of that is fine. Yeah, those are all perfectly understandable.
I don't understand how it is.
You know,
because hold up, if
go for it, yeah.
Hold up. Let me. If you give me that same hypothetical, right, of the establishment Dem versus Nick Fuentes, who's polling higher, right? Mm-hmm. I would vote for Nick Fuentes, who's polling higher. If if he's not as popular as he is, if he doesn't have as much political power as he, yes. Why would I vote? Like, if this guy is going to be like a person who blocks MAGA, right? Which it seems like he is. He's telling his groypers to go vote for Dems, right? If he's a person who's against MAGA and has the ability to get the seat and go against them, even if I find his entire ideology horrible, why would I not vote for him?
So you'd vote for Hassan in the same circumstance? Owned.
Oh, yes.
Owned. Yeah.
Why am I owned?
Because
I'm consistent.
You didn't know I was cooking up to that.
I said this though.
So you would vote for Hassan?
What?
In that circumstance, all it would take is Hassan polling higher than the establishment Democrat.
I already conceded that I would vote for a DSA person who's polling higher Hassan, as long as they don't have any power.
All it would take for you to vote for Hassan, so just to be clear, all it would take for you to vote for Hassan in a primary is for him to be polling, I don't know, 8-10 above the Republican relative to what the establishment Democrat would be. And that's all it would take for you to vote for Hassan. Unless you're going to say you're going to treat Nick Fuentes worse than Hassan. Yeah. So then who are you to talk down to anyone over like purifying the party? And like, how can you let these people in who want to destroy you? You just said you'd vote for Hassan. All it would take is like some strong polling data in his favor.
Actually,
oh?
in terms of like a primary, if it were, in terms of like a primary, sorry, I wasn't even thinking in primary terms. I was thinking in like the general.
No. That was a primary, and you said that you would vote for Fuentes, assuming he had less power. If he were,
yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the I was thinking about the ultimate position, right, which is just the general. Now, like you're correct. If it's a primary and it's between Fuentes and even if he's pulling higher, just on like moral grounds, I would just sit out of the primary. I wouldn't vote. I'd be disgusted by that choice. But when it comes to the general, I mean, even you would say you would vote for Nick, right?
In the general? No. I don't know. If, I don't know if Fuentes is preferable.
You wouldn't vote for Nick in the general, even.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that. You know, for the reasons you stated.
What?
It's
Nick
like
is literally saying to not vote or to go vote Democrat. He's literally explicitly said that on multiple occasions.
Yes,
now.
I know. Notwithstanding,
and you would still vote for what, the MAGA Republican?
Yeah, I would sit out. I just like you did. You
would
gave
withhold?
Yeah, you gave the explanation for it. It was a good explanation.
I sat out on the primary, which is where I can.
I know, but the explanation, whether you meant to or not, the explanation whether you meant to or not, was a good one, and it applies both to the primary and the general.
No, it doesn't.
I can explain it to you if you want.
Why does it apply to the general?
Because for the reasons you stated, the second order knock-on effects of giving Nick Fuentes public office would be potentially catastrophic because he has a big, very passionate following in a way that it wouldn't be true if he weren't an elected office. Now, if you diminish his power, I thought that was a beautiful explanation too. If you diminish his power enough where it's like, okay, this is stupid, then I'm just going to vote for Fuentes. Yeah, I would grant that. I thought that was a really good explanation from you. But it just would apply to Hassan too.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting. Yeah, like if Hassan had like if like, let's say this like it was a country that like everybody wanted to be fucking capitalist and the option were to choose Hassan to stop a MAGA from getting in, then obviously, yeah, I'm not trying to
no, but I'm trying to say
just pointing out the distinction between.
But as presently expressed, your view was that all it would take for Hassan, he just needs to have like some significant polling advantage to an establishment Dem in the general matchup in the primary, right? So in the primary, you see the general election polls, and that's all it would take for you to vote for Hassan. And so you're in no position to be looking at me and be like, how could you support Brad Lander?
No, I would never. I wouldn't vote for Hassan in the primary. I wouldn't vote for Hassan in the primary. I would sit out. I told you the
changed your
moral
answer.
Calculation for that is different than the moral calculation for the. Okay,
so then why would you support the DSA candidate? So now you're treating Hassan differently than DSA.
No.
So you're going to go back on the DSA candidate if they're polling above it?
I was treating the hype. No. Let me explain what I'm saying. When you pose the hypothetical, my overall thought was thinking about what's going to happen in the general. Okay, so I was just basically disregarding the idea of the primary at all. But if I separate these two, which I think there's an important,
I don't believe you. It was very clear we were talking about a primary.
Right?
What do you mean? I mean, it was very clear we were talking about the primary.
I was thinking of the overall effect, which is my mistake.
All right.
I was thinking of the overall effect, which is my mistake.
So then what's the answer? When would you support the DSA in the primary?
In the general. I would only support them in the general.
Even if the DSA candidate was polling significantly above the establishment candidate in the general election, let's say 15 points?
Yes. Why? Why not?
Because that's crazy.
Why?
Because don't you want to defeat Trump?
Yes.
So don't you think a 15, 20...
The whole point of the primary... The whole point of the primary was to fight out with the ideological differences for that ticket, right?
Also, but also electability. I value electability a lot. If Haley Stevens had maintained a massive lead over El Sayed in terms of the general election matchup, I would have endorsed her. It was too uncertain in my mind based on the polling data.
She is. Doesn't she have like a lead?
It's back and
doesn't she have a
forth.
10-point lead?
There's a very impressive
I
poll.
thought I saw Hutch put out
There's an impressive poll that came out. There's some critiques of that poll, but if she had maintained that, if that was like a clear trend that was borne out in more rigorous polling, I would have endorsed Stevens in the primary.
Okay. I mean, like I said, like if he's pulling that high, then just like a moral point, I would support the Dem because I don't want it to appear that I like am supportive of the DSA platform or the DSA position.
Even if no one knows about your vote, I mean, yeah,
But
you don't
like,
have to tell
in
anybody. You
general-
can keep it to yourself. Let's say you just picked. You just pick.
Yeah,
Forget
like,
about the vote. Forget about the second order effects. You just get to pick who you picking, and whoever you pick is the
I
candidate
just get to pick to who runs.
who wins the
But I
primary.
just get to pick who runs.
Who
Wins the primary.
who wins the primary of the
I
candidates.
mean, well, that's a different calculation. But then I would do the person who's more electable, obviously.
Yeah, including the DSA members. If assuming they are, right? Assuming they are.
Yes.
Now, very often, I think that
Right now-
my intuition is
right
the DSA
now,
in
yes.
general, the DSA will be less electable, though that's not always true. AOC ran ahead of Kamala. Did you know that?
Didn't Bernie run behind Kamala?
I think that's true. Yeah. I'm just saying it's not always true.
It just depends, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just
Yeah.
depends. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes I'll support the DSA candidate if they're
I
superior.
mean, like, yeah, it's yeah, but like, I think it's hard. I think like, I think the thing that's making this conversation exceptionally difficult is I have other points I wanted to move to. But I think the thing
Move
that's
to your
making this
points, bro.
exceptionally
I'm not
difficult is,
trying to
I have to-
railroad you.
No, it's that I have to. It's that I would have to like.
Would you vote for Hassan or Lindsey
come up
Graham
with a
in an
very,
election
very
in South
specific
Carolina? Who would you vote
definition?
for? Hassan or Lindsey Graham in South Carolina?
Hassan?
Okay, so
Hassan.
you understand it. You understand this, right? So like this whole kick them out of the party, kick them out of the tent thing. I think it's just a bunch of nonsense. If
Well, this is what I mean is that. Well, I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
I think the issue is like I have to come up with a very specific definition of what I mean by like kick them out of the party.
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's my
I don't want
frustration.
to be. I
People
don't want
do
there
that.
ever to be a conflation. I just don't. I don't want there ever to be a conflation between DSA and the Democrats. There should never be that type of conflation.
Who's
It should be
conflating
as
them?
clear a divide. However you do this, it should be as clear a divide as Massey and Ro Khanna teaming up to pass that Epstein bill. However you do this, maybe I can't like explicitly like articulate how this is done, but whatever is done that where Massey and Ro Khanna are clearly separate, I want the Dems and the DSA to be explicitly separate in the same way.
Okay. I don't think that people are like conflating
Which I don't think that's
DSA
the case
and
right
Democrats.
now.
I think they're just saying that like the DSA is too influential. The DSA has too much power, and they're running as Democrats when they shouldn't. I don't think people are like confused by the DSA and the Democrats. They're different things.
Well, yeah, they're different things as in like name, obviously. Just by the fact that they have different.
Yeah, and I don't think people.
I don't know if like if like if somebody like do you think like somebody who's not like very like engaged with I guess it's just like I don't know.
They're gonna be like, "What's the DSA, bro?"
Or I have a
They're gonna be like,
feeling-
"Yeah, if they're not engaged, like they don't know. They're
Well,
just a
I
Democrat
think
or
if-
Republican."
If you like were to ask the average American like, oh, like it's Mamdani versus Sliwa, like are you like do you think they would say like, oh, I want to vote for the Democrat there or the DSA candidate?
Well, you
Like,
said
what do
you might
think
vote for
they would say?
Sliwa because he's a
Probably
never
say,
Trumper.
I'm voting for the Democrat.
Oh, I don't know. You seemed a little bit hesitant.
Yeah, I would vote for a never Trumper.
You would vote for
I would
Sliwa
vote
over
for a never
Mamdani?
Trumper. If he was a never Trumper, yeah.
Okay, so then here's the
Would
the
you
question.
not?
I would not. No, I'd vote for Mamdani over a never Trumper. Republican? Here's the question of questions. Who you
I
vote?
just- when I look at-
Wait. Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Mitt Romney or AOC, president?
Yeah. I mean AOC, but I wouldn't consider her as part of
So
the
okay,
DSA.
that's convenient.
She's-
Mamdani,
yes.
if he were eligible, versus Mitt Romney.
Mamdani or Mitt Romney?
President.
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. I think you're a fucking Republican, bro. Take that shit out
Unless
of
he
here.
has like, unless he's like some particular. Well, hold up. If he's some like particular, to be clear, I was like, I don't know how old was I when when Mitt Romney was running. I was like a child in like elementary school, I think.
He's
So
gonna
unless
appoint
he has, like,
another
some
fucking
particular,
conservative
like,
justice.
odious
He's
view,
gonna
like-
he's gonna pass some big tax cuts. Why would you? What is he gonna do that you like compared to Mamdani? Maybe foreign policy wise, you'd prefer Romney.
I mean, okay. I mean, we can go on to like one thing I wanted to tackle was like this directionally correct thing, but like in terms of like Mamdani versus like Mitt Romney, like Mamdani is like I honestly can't tell with Mamdani whether he's like subversive or he's not. And the only reason, and I didn't think he was before, only because, but I do think he is now, only because he endorsed Chevalier and that other person. I can't remember their name.
Valdez.
Because when you have people like Chevalier, Valdez, yeah, when you have people like Chevalier, who doesn't support Ukraine, thinks NATO should be gotten rid of, you know, like wants to abolish police, thinks you should have open borders. Like this is a non-starter for me. In the same way, it's a non-starter for me with Republicans or with MAGA, I guess.
But it's clear that if it were like Rubio versus Mamdani, you'd vote for Mamdani.
Yes.
Rubio's pro NATO.
Maybe.
Rubio's pro Ukraine.
Well, okay, hold up. Let me explain. Okay. I think Rubio is a horrible piece of shit and a grifter and just does what he can to get power. If Rubio were to like do a 180 and like go back to what he was before MAGA took over, I would prefer him over Mamdani. If he doesn't do that, however, then I would obviously prefer Mamdani. Unless like the country is in like because if Mamdani were president, I feel like the political winds would have to be much different than they are now, and that like the DSA and like socialist ideas would be way more popular. In which case, I might just sit out that election if it's MAGA and like actual like
But
socialism.
like here's the other. Okay, I'll give it away. I'm not going to build up to it anymore. I'm about to switch it up on you and say Sanders. Would you treat Sanders differently versus Rubio? This like redeemed Rubio or Mitt Romney? And if the answer is I would treat Sanders differently than Mamdani, I'm like, why?
I think Sanders is cancer, so I don't like Sanders.
So you would vote for
like
redeemed Marco
again,
Rubio
like-
or Mitt Romney over Bernie Sanders?
Again, if this is okay, just please take this. This is what I'm taking into account. Okay, so please understand what I mean when I say I would prefer redeem Marco and Mitt Romney versus Sanders. Okay, if I'm voting for them, and Sanders is the one who's like the nominee for the Democratic Party, to me that makes it sound like that socialism is incredibly popular in the US and that the things that Bernie wants to do that pushes towards socialism.
Bernie
could
was
be
ahead of Joe
accomplished.
Biden for
Like,
the first part of the
parts like
primaries in
Green
2020.
Deal
You know
he
that,
could
right?
accomplish.
So Bernie was the front runner in 2020 until Super Tuesday for
then he
Biden.
lost.
No, I know he lost, but is that there's a plausible scenario where Bernie wins 2020 if they stay divided and if Biden for whatever
then-
do you understand that?
okay,
You're,
then
like,
take
were we
into-
close to socialism then? And like, oh my god, the country's falling apart. That's why you prefer redeemed Marco Rubio?
Take into account my criteria. If Bernie were to get into power and he couldn't do all this stuff because socialism wasn't popular with the electorate, then obviously I would vote for Bernie.
Yeah, but
Like, is that criteria not an important distinction to you?
I didn't say that socialism as you understand it, which is what, like tankyism, is taking hold. That's not in the scenario. The scenario is just Sanders versus Rubio redeemed.
I'm telling you where I would vote though, and what would my consideration be for why I would vote which way. Which is, I would vote for Sanders in one
contingent
scenario,
on a
but I wouldn't
tanky
vote for him in
takeover.
another scenario.
Contingent on a but I didn't put tanky takeover in the parameters of the hypothetical. I don't know why Destiny did this too. Destiny was like, oh, I thought when you were asking the AOC thing, it was like socialists taking over. Like, oh, huh? I didn't say that. Why did you assume that?
I assume it because if you're saying that a person who is like pretty explicitly a socialist is going to be the head of the party, it's because he has popular support within
Bernie
the party
didn't.
and perhaps the
Like
country.
Bernie does,
to do
and
the
Mamdani
socialist
does.
things that he wants to do.
Do you understand? Mamdani does, and Bernie does, and AOC do. They're popular among Democrats.
Do what?
Bernie is like, I believe that popular in the country.
I understand that they're popular.
Yeah, these are popular Dems.
I understand that they're popular, which I think is an issue. But like, are they popular, like for like because of socialism, or are they popular for some other reason?
What do you mean by socialism? Do you mean socialism as they use it, or socialism as you're using as this anti-liberal thing?
Socialism is an anti-liberal thing.
So if what you mean by socialist is probably like, the majority Democrats
You don't even have to
think
say
socialism is positive. They just probably don't mean what you mean with socialism.
Yes, I understand that socialism in this country is like horribly bastardized, and like a lot of people don't understand what the fuck it means.
So what do you mean when you say socialism? What do you mean? What do you mean?
I think my understanding is that a useful like distinction between these two. I think you said a boy comes from this. I can't remember what the guy's name.
Yeah,
was.
like the labor movement tradition,
UK
and
guy
and
came after.
Yeah, sure. Yes, this is Clement Attlee.
Yeah,
Called
Clement
himself
Attlee,
a
that's
socialist. Yeah.
My understanding is that Clement Attlee, when he was in office, and I guess we have no way of knowing how to do this, but Clement Attlee sure knew how to do it, is that he fucking hated the communists. And he fought with them constantly and made sure to distance himself constantly. Because even though, like, Clement Attlee was, like a socialist, like, he wasn't, like, I don't even know what the distinction is between socialists and communists, if I'm being honest. But like,
okay, then why are we like?
Okay,
can we just stop with this then? Like, it's clear that the socialism, as understood in the Democrats, which is net popular, you understand that among Democrats, is net popular.
Do you think?
Can you just answer that first? Just answer it first.
I understand this.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So the answer is yes, right?
Yes.
Socialism is net popular. Okay. Now, do you think that pro-authoritarian socialism is net popular? That if you ask the question, hey, do you support Stalin? They would say over 50%?
I don't think you ask it that way.
Yeah, so they just mean something different than what you mean. When they say socialists, they probably just mean
Wait, hold up.
Healthcare and
when it comes
government
to
does
MAGA,
stuff.
do you think? Yeah, which is I would probably.
Whether you think it's stupid or not, the real definition
so.
is tangential. I'm just telling you that it's consistent with Bernie Sanders winning a primary for Democratic president, and there not being some like tanky groundswell. It could just be the socialist in the other sense groundswell.
Do you think like MAGA voters would say that they like I don't know, Mussolini or
No, they don't
Hitler?
like them. Yeah, no.
If you were to ask them,
Yeah, this is a great question.
then
Yeah.
why would you say that like there's no authoritarian when you do this Lenin comparison with?
Yeah, you wouldn't have to ask them about
with-
Stalin. You could just be like, do you agree with total abolishment of private property? What do you think Democrats will say?
Democrats?
Yes.
Probably they
No,
wouldn't agree
right?
with that.
Yeah.
DSA?
Okay.
DSA? I think DSA would say
I'm
they
about to
want
hang up this
total
call.
abolishment of
You just
private
triggered me so
property.
much. I'm controlling myself. You just triggered the fuck out of me. You're not tracking this conversation. Actually, you triggered me enough. I'm ending the call. Holy shit, that triggered me so hard. That triggered me so fucking hard. I can't yell. It's Japan. tonight. That was so annoying. Obviously, where I was going with that is he was trying to put some insane conditions in the hypothetical that I just outlined of Sanders replacing Mamdani. And I said it's not like entailed that if Sanders rises that you're going to see tankies rising up. And that's in virtue of what Democrats presumably all support when they promote Sanders in the primary. And then he brought it back to DNC, which is obviously a derail, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's just like totally not tracking at all the point of the, and it was just looping. This is just crazy. Just crazy. Okay. I'm gonna go. It's late here. We didn't get to react to anything, but I appreciate all the support for the channel. Give it a like, sub to the channel, be a member, and yeah, just you guys are the best. And stay cool, stay awesome. Apparently, I'm going to talk to Mr. Mutin tomorrow at 9. When you get to this point in me talking, say the number 4, and then I'll know to stop the stream. 4. Okay, so just put 4, and I'll know to stop the stream. I'm just gonna wait. Just gonna wait. Isn't this fun? Isn't this good? Oh wait, Soy Pill says. Oh, okay. I shouldn't read things.